Chapter 483. Pavilion Masterling, how long will it take to kill the Devil Dragon army? Qin Chichi asked. Not more than 15 minutes, Lin Yanmei said. However, in the previous surprise attack, 2,000 against 2,000, the monstrous Wolf Legion was completely wiped out, Qin Chichi said. But half of the Devil Dragon army died, Lin Yanmei said. The Demon Wolf army has more explosive power and is more ferocious and cruel. As for the Devil Dragon army, they have more endurance and glory. However, in the face of 10 times the difference in numbers, any kind of willpower and endurance is useless. At the moment of contact, the 3,000 Devil Dragon army will be completely torn apart and devoured. They won't have any chance, Lin Yanmei said. Therefore, in less than 15 minutes, Yang Dingtian's few thousand Devil Dragon army will be completely annihilated. The Demon Wolf army will not have more than 1,000 casualties. Looking at the two overlords of the continent getting closer, Yang Dingtian became more and more nervous. In the end, he almost couldn't breathe. The 100,000 soldiers on the city wall were so nervous that they were twitching. The 3,500 Devil Dragon army was Cloud Sky City's absolute trump card. If they lost the first battle, Cloud Sky City wouldn't be able to stop the enemy's 20,000 Demon Wolf army. If they lost the first battle, Cloud Sky City would lose completely. However, could they win? The 100,000 soldiers on the city wall didn't have any confidence. This was because the disparity was too great. The 3,500 Devil Dragon army soldiers didn't even seem to be 1% of the enemy's Demon Wolf army. The enemy's Demon Wolf army was truly overwhelming, capable of destroying heaven and earth. Bang! An earth-shattering sound. The two overlords of the continent instantly clashed fiercely. The hearts of everyone in Cloud Sky City were about to burst out of their chests. The first battle between the righteous and evil armies had officially begun. Everyone was incomparably afraid to see that scene. The incomparably small Devil Dragon army would be instantly devoured. However, it seemed that this scene would definitely happen. Every warrior in the Devil Dragon army looked at the overwhelming Demon Wolf army. Their hearts were filled with the will to die and tragic feelings. Even if he were to die, he would kill a few more enemies. Even if he were to die, he would die a heroic death. Even though Yang Dingtian had changed all of their outfits. Their swords, armors, and battering rams were all coated with a layer of bloody black gold. However, the number of enemies was simply too great. With a layer of bloody black gold on their equipment, so what if their combat strength was increased by 30%? There were simply too many enemies. However, the Devil Dragon army was not afraid of death. Even if they were completely annihilated, they would fight to the end. After the 4 commanders pulled out their swords, they let out roars that soared into the sky. Kill! More than 3,000 blood demon swords emitted a murderous aura. Then, the 3,500 members of the Devil Dragon army charged towards the demonic wolf army ferociously. Bang 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 bang. The expected pain didn't come. The expected death did not come. The expected tearing did not appear. The blood demon sword in each of their hands was like the light of hell, directly tearing apart the opponent's incomparably sturdy shields, directly breaking the opponent's terrifyingly sharp giant sabers, and directly tearing apart the opponent's sturdy armor. In the end, the ferocious giant demonic wolf army was instantly torn in half by the blood demon sword. It turned into blood that splattered all over the sky. The blood demon armor in front of the Devil Dragon army instantly smashed the ferocious giant demonic wolf army's armor into pieces. Its skull was torn apart, and its entire body was instantly smashed into pieces, turning into minced meat. Then, under the Devil Dragon army's incomparably shocked and astonished gaze, the 3,500 members of the Devil Dragon army crushed over just like that. That's right, they crushed and plowed over just like that. There was no resistance at all. Everything that blocked the blood demon sword was torn apart, and all of them were smashed into pieces. Everything that stood in the way of the demonic dragon mount was crushed into pieces and trampled into a pile of meat paste. The Devil Dragon army plowed over just like that. How could this be? How could this be? The Devil Dragon army was completely massacring. A few days ago, the Devil Dragon army and the Demonic Wolf army were fighting 2,000 against 2,000. Although the Devil Dragon army obtained the final victory, the Devil Dragon army was at a disadvantage in the instant of close combat. This was because the Demonic Wolf army's explosive power was too strong. More than 60% of the Devil Dragon army's deaths occurred in the instant of the collision. 3,500 clashed with 25,000. The Devil Dragon army's warriors were already prepared for the most tragic and bloody deaths. But the result was actually one-sided. All the warriors of the Devil Dragon army immediately had their gazes on their swords. The treasured swords that City Lord Yang Dingtian had modified for them were actually so powerful. They were so powerful that it was completely unimaginable. The enemy's weapons and armor were completely unable to block them. Therefore, the Devil Dragon army, which should have been at a disadvantage, was actually completely invincible. And most importantly, after the swords were unsheathed, the incomparably ferocious and bloodthirsty Demonic Wolf army, who didn't fear death, actually trembled in fear and instinctively retreated. Wherever the Blood Demon sword passed, the wild beast's first reaction wasn't to fight, but to dodge. Since when did wild beasts become afraid? Of course, it was because of the Blood Demon sword's evil spirit. After forging these Blood Demon swords, Yang Dingtian immediately discovered that they were filled with the evil spirit's evil spirit. Therefore, Yang Dingtian immediately sheathed these treasured swords. When he gave the equipment to the Devil Dragon army's warriors, he ordered that no one was allowed to unsheathe their swords. They had to unsheathe their swords at the instant before the collision. The purpose was to accumulate the evil spirit. It was to accumulate the evil spirit to the extreme and then release it instantly. The power was indeed incomparably shocking. Yang Dingtian, who was on the city wall, was completely stunned. When the enemy sent out 25,000 demonic wolf mounts, he made the most optimistic and pessimistic estimates in his heart. However, even if he multiplied his optimism by 10 times, he still didn't expect this scene. He felt that in the instant of collision, at least 1/3 of the Devil Dragon army would die. Next, it was a battle of wills. Under glory and willpower, the Devil Dragon army would become stronger as they fought. The most optimistic estimate was that in the face of 25,000 demonic wolf mounts, they might win, but the Devil Dragon mounts would almost be completely annihilated. Moreover, this was based on the fact that the Demonic Wolf army began to flee after seeing the large-scale casualties. This was the rule of wild beasts. They were bloodthirsty and didn't know what fear was. However, once a large number of their kind died, they would begin to flee. Their fearlessness would also turn into complete fear. Yang Dingtian really didn't expect that the situation would be like this. It was actually a one-sided massacre. The 3,500 demon dragon warriors had actually managed to crush them. Everywhere they passed, they were crushed into pieces and turned into meat paste. Where was the cruelty and bloodthirstiness of the Demonic Wolf army? Where was their terrifying explosive power? Why did they all disappear? Soon, Yang Dingtian found the reason. It was evil spirit. The Devil Dragon army's treasured swords had killed countless people. They originally had evil spirit. Then, this evil spirit was instantly magnified by the bloody black gold's incomparably powerful energy aura. Finally, it was magnified again by the extremely terrifying demonic spirit aura. Then, it was completely sealed in the scabbard. When the battle began, more than 3,000 demonic blood swords were unsheathed. Suddenly, an evil spirit surged into the sky. Humans could still rely on glory and willpower to avoid the mental impact of this evil spirit. However, wild beasts couldn't do it. Therefore, the Demonic Wolf army instinctively dodged. Therefore, it became a one-sided massacre. The 100,000 people on the city wall looked at the scene in front of them and were first completely shocked. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. More than 3,000 Devil Dragon army, facing the Demonic Wolf army that was nearly 10 times their size, was actually a one-sided massacre. Then, cheers and roars like a tide. Long live! Long live! Long live City Lord Yang Dingtian! Long live the Devil Dragon Army! At this time, Ling Yanmei's entire body was trembling. She looked at everything in front of her in disbelief. This is impossible. This is impossible. Even the most absurd nightmare wouldn't happen in front of her. With an 8 times difference in numbers, they should have instantly devoured the opponent and killed the entire Devil Dragon army in 15 minutes. However, the reality was actually a one-sided massacre? How could this be? How could this be? Ling Yanmei's entire body was completely cold. What's going on? Qin Chichi said lightly. Our demonic wolf army is being slaughtered. They don't have the slightest ability to resist. Ling Yanmei hissed. Nonsense, how is this possible? Qin Chichi said hoarsely. Really, I also don't dare to imagine. How could this be? Our demonic wolf army has no killing intent. They are all hiding. Ling Yanmei said hoarsely. Suddenly, a black startled bird flew into the sky and looked down at the situation. This startled bird could become Qin Chichi's eyes. After a long time, Qin Chichi said lightly, Yang Dingtian is crazy. He used all the bloody black gold to modify the Devil Dragon Army's weapons and armor. I also felt that these weapons contained the killing intent of a 1,000-year-old devil spirit. No wonder, no wonder. Then can the situation be reversed? Ling Yanmei said. Yang Dingtian's spending is really shocking. Doesn't he know that the value of these tens of thousands of bloody black gold has already surpassed the Devil Dragon Army? Qin Chichi said in disbelief. Reversal? We just have to wait for the killing intent of these blood demon swords to dissipate. As long as the killing intent dissipates, it will be time for the demonic wolf army to counterattack. Massacre, massacre, massacre. The Devil Dragon army was running crazily. They were like killing machines, crazily crushing and crazily massacring. They didn't need to wave their swords. They only needed to rush over, trample over, and stab over. The demonic wolf army wasn't being killed by dozens. It wasn't hundreds of them being killed. It was thousands of them being killed. In less than 15 minutes. The demonic wolf army was killed by over 10,000 people. The ground within dozens of miles was covered in blood, flesh, and severed limbs. However, the 4 commanders of the Devil Dragon army were shocked to find that the killing intent of the blood demon swords in their hands was getting weaker and weaker. Once the killing intent dissipated, the demonic wolf army would no longer hide. They would fight head-on. At this moment, the demonic wolf army still had more than 10,000 soldiers. Orders. 5,000 demonic wolf cavalry stay where they are. They will be used as cannon fodder to deplete the killing intent of the Devil Dragon army. 10,000 demonic wolf army will retreat 10 li and get into formation. They will wait for the final battle with the Devil Dragon army. Qin Chichi ordered. Yes. Immediately, the dozens of flags of the demonic wolf army started waving. Then, a few hundred wolf horns started blowing their orders. A few minutes later, the 10,000 demonic wolf army quickly turned around and retreated. The remaining 5,000 stood in front of the Devil Dragon army, allowing them to kill and deplete the killing intent. City Lord Qin Chichi has plotted, Song Chunhua said. Yang Dingtian nodded. Of course, he saw it. The 5,000 demonic wolf warriors were left as cannon fodder to deplete the killing intent. The 10,000 demonic wolf army retreated and waited for the final battle. However, there was no other way now. I believe that even without the killing intent, our Devil Dragon army can still win against the 10,000 demonic wolf army, Yang Dingtian said. The Devil Dragon army was still slaughtering. However, the killing intent of their blood demon swords was getting weaker and weaker. After it decreased to a certain extent. Suddenly, the demonic wolf army was no longer afraid. They no longer hid and started to fight the Devil Dragon army head-on. However, there were less than 1,000 demonic wolf army left. 15 minutes later, there were less than 1,000 demon wolves left, and all of them were killed. However, the Devil Dragon army had already suffered some casualties. Previously, when they were filled with killing intent, they faced 25,000 and slaughtered 14,000 without any casualties. In the end, when the killing intent was depleted, there were casualties against 1,000 demonic wolf warriors. Although the casualties were very small. At this moment, the 10,000 demonic wolf cavalry had already formed a sharp knife formation. They were restless and were ready to fight. Young madam, the cavalry of the eastern and western armies have already arrived. They are less than 100 miles away from the battlefield, Ling Yemei suddenly said. Yang Dingtian's miraculous performance destroyed 100 suspension bridges. Qin Wanzhou very tacitly stopped advancing east. As for the eastern army led by Qiu Wanjie, they were ambushed in Sky Thunder City, and their son was captured. They also very tacitly stopped advancing. They delayed for 3 days. Evil ways were used. Qin Wanzhou's 2 sons and 3 daughters suddenly exploded and died. A plague appeared in the northwest Qin city's territory. In a short period of time, more than 100,000 people died. Qin Wanzhou felt a bone-piercing pain. Then, he had no choice but to deploy 3,000 flying mounts to transport the Western Army across the abyss and into Cloud Sky City's territory. Of course, he delayed for 3 days for Yang Dingtian. But he also paid a huge price. After Qin Wanzhou's Western Army advanced east, Qiu Wanjie couldn't do it alone. He also used the shortest amount of time to open up a tunnel for the Eastern Army to enter Cloud Sky City. At this moment, the cavalry of the Eastern and Western armies finally arrived at the battlefield. Their infantry troops were 300 miles away from Cloud Sky City. How many of them are there in total? Qin Chichi asked. Qin Wanzhou's Western Army cavalry, 150,000. Qiu Wanjie's Eastern Army cavalry, 130,000. Ling Yanmei said. Qin Chichi said. Order them to enter the battlefield immediately and participate in the battle. Yes, Ling Yanmei said. Then, dozens of flying mounts flew in the east and west direction to convey the order to Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie. City Lord, there is a message from the sky. The cavalry of the eastern and western armies have arrived. They are less than 100 miles away from the battlefield. Jiao Liao quickly reported. Yang Dingtian said. Send 2 messengers to Qin City Lord Qin Wanzhou and Divine Weapons Manor Lord Qiu Wanjie. Stop and see who wins first before making a decision. Yes, Jiao Liao said. Wait, Yang Dingtian said. Bring Qiu Yiming here. Yes. A moment later, Qiu Yiming was brought up. The handsome and confident young Master Qiu was gone. He had lost a lot of weight. His eye sockets were sunken, and his eyeballs were bloodshot. His entire body was dark and swarthy, and he was wearing dirty and tattered clothes. Yang Dingtian frowned slightly and said, Qiu Yiming, did someone mistreat you? No. Qiu Yiming turned his head away from Yang Dingtian and said, Humph, who dares to mistreat me? Your father is here, leading hundreds of thousands of cavalry. He is 100 miles away. Help me send a message. Tell him to stop and see who wins first before making a decision, Yang Dingtian said. Qiu Yiming was shocked and said, You are not afraid that after I go back, I will immediately ask my father to lead the troops and kill them to avenge the humiliation of being captured? Yang Dingtian smiled and said, That is up to you. Then, with an incomparably complicated expression, Qiu Yiming sat on his flying mount and flew towards the east. As for the other messenger, he flew towards the west. Qin Wanzhou received Qin Chichi and Yang Dingtian's messengers almost at the same time. Qin Chichi wanted him to immediately send out the troops. Yang Dingtian wanted him to observe first and make a decision after seeing who wins the next battle. At this moment, Qin Wanzhou was floating 1,000 meters in the air. The gorgeous Qiu Ruhan was beside him. Husband, choose carefully. You don't have many children left, Qiu Ruhan said faintly and threateningly. Yes. Qin Wanzhou smiled as if there was no anger or hatred. Then, he fell into a dilemma. That's right, he really didn't have many children left. Evil ways killed more, and he wouldn't be able to bear it. He looked at the army of evil ways 100 miles away and the 10,000 demon wolf army that had gathered together. Then, he looked at the cloud heaven city 100 miles away and the 3,000 demon dragon army soldiers. The two trump card armies were 10 miles apart, quietly confronting each other and filled with explosive power. Qin Wancho clenched his teeth and shouted, "All troops halt! Rest and reorganize." He chose to observe first and make a decision after seeing who wins or loses. Qiu Ruhan's expression changed as she said coldly, "I hope you won't regret it." Her voice was incomparably cruel. At the same time, Qiu Yiming appeared in front of Qiu Wanjie, causing the haggard Qiu Wanjie to be instantly shocked and overjoyed. Yang Dingtian actually let him return. He actually let the most important hostage return. Qiu Yiming went forward and said, "Father, Yang Dingtian asked me to pass you a message. Stop and observe first and make a decision after seeing who wins or loses." Qiu Wanjie saw his son's miserable state. There were a few scars on his face, and he was skinny, dark, and haggard. He didn't look like a human at all. He couldn't help but be furious. "Yang Dingtian, that bastard abused you? I will tear him into pieces right now." "Abused? No," Qiu Yiming said. "Yang Dingtian, that bastard, pretended to be kind and righteous. He wouldn't abuse me. Then, how did you become like this?" Qiu Wanjie's heart ached. "I have been working every day, digging tunnels and building city walls. But Yang Dingtian, that bastard, sealed my sea of qi and made me fall a few times. I was almost disfigured." Qiu Yiming said furiously. "Humph, just you wait. Father will take revenge for you," Qiu Wanjie said. "And up to you." Qiu Yiming then turned and flew towards Cloud Heaven City. "Yiming? Where are you going?" Qiu Wanjie was shocked. "Back," Qiu Yiming said. "Back where?" Qiu Wanjie asked. "Back to Cloud Heaven City," Qiu Yiming said. "Father, I don't care what decision you make. But I promised Arai that I won't be a deserter. Even if I die, I will die in front of Cloud Heaven City. I will take my leave first." Then, under Qiu Wanjie's astonishment, Qiu Yiming flew back. Qiu Wanjie was shocked. Wasn't this brat scolding Yang Dingtian? Why did he go back and say that he wanted to live and die with Cloud Heaven City? At this moment, the woman beside Qiu Wanjie said coldly, "The crafty Yang Dingtian is the best at bewitching people's hearts. Manor Lord Qiu, everything will be decided by you. But you will bear all the consequences." If Yang Dingtian was here, he would definitely recognize this woman. The incomparably beautiful and exotic Wu Maji. Qiu Wanjie clenched his teeth and shouted, "All troops stop! Rest and reorganize!" Wu Maji's face turned cold. "Manor Lord Qiu, I hope you don't regret this." "Young madam, Qin Wancho's Western Legion Cavalry and Qiu Wanjie's Eastern Legion Cavalry have all stopped," Lin Yanmei said. "Old and crafty bastard, still trying to be a fence-sitter at this moment," Qin Chichi said coldly. "All right, let's see who wins and who loses before deciding. Inject the demon blood into the demon wolf army. Then, advance courageously and kill the demon dragon army." "Yes," Lin Yanmei said. Then, she waved the flag and blew the wolf horn. Instantly, the warriors on the demon wolf mounts took out a tube of demon blood and injected it into the necks of the demon wolf mounts. Oh! Instantly, 10,000 demon wolves let out a strange howl. Instantly, black and red blood filled their huge beastly eyes. Their claws were growing rapidly, and their fangs were growing rapidly. Their forelegs suddenly became thick and strong. Their skin and flesh were torn apart inch by inch, dripping with blood. These 10,000 demon wolves instantly swelled by 30% and released an extremely ferocious and terrifying aura. After injecting the demon blood, the demon wolves were demonized. Once demonized, their speed, explosive power, and strength increased. All of them increased by 30% and above. Moreover, they would never back down. They would only charge forward courageously until they tore the enemy apart, or were torn apart themselves. The demon wolves injected with the demon blood were destined to die regardless of victory or defeat. Chin Chi, even if she had to pay the price of the 10,000 demon wolves being annihilated, she had to completely destroy the demon dragon army and obtain victory. Then, Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie would immediately attack Cloud Sky City. Awoo! The 10,000 demon wolves 10 miles away let out demonic howls that made people tremble. The demon dragon warriors suddenly had a bad premonition in their hearts. The blood demon sword's killing intent had been used up, but there were still 10,000 enemies and all of them had demonized. No one knew the outcome of the battle and their fate. However, these 10,000 demon wolves were now emitting the aura of demons. Even if they were 10 miles away, they would still make people tremble. The first commander suddenly stepped out and shouted, "What do we demon dragon warriors rely on to fight? Is it killing intent? Tell us, what do we use to fight? Willpower and glory!" Over 3,000 demon dragon warriors shouted. "That's right, we use willpower and glory to fight!" The first commander shouted. "When we fight, do we care who the enemy is? Do we care how strong the enemy is?" "No!" All the demon dragon warriors shouted. "That's right, we never care who the enemy is. We only care about where the enemy is." The first commander said, "Tell me, where is our enemy?" 10 miles ahead." "That's right, 10 miles ahead." The first commander said, "We, the demon dragon army, never care about who the enemy is. We only care about where the enemy is. Our enemy is right in front. Slaughter and death are our fates. For the glory of the demon dragon army, kill!" The first commander roared and took the lead to charge out. Looking at the 10,000 demon wolves with demonic aura, he rode alone without any fear and charged forward. For the glory of the demon dragon army, kill! More than 3,000 members of the devil dragon army charged forward like lightning. Qin Chi's expression changed, Qin Wanzhou's expression changed, and Qiu Wanjie's expression changed. The first to charge was actually the demon dragon army. The 10,000 demon wolves were stunned at first. Then, they opened their blood-red eyes, opened their bloody mouths, and roared towards the sky. Kill! The 10,000 demon wolves charged out crazily. Their speed increased by 30% and was much faster than the demon dragon army. The two trump card armies charged once again. This time, it was a real collision. The demon blood sword of the demon dragon army no longer had any killing intent. Evil ways of the demon wolves had demonized and their strength had increased tremendously. This time, it was a real bloodthirsty battle. Two lightning bolts approached each other rapidly. In an instant, bang! A loud sound echoed. A crazy collision, an unprecedented collision. Endless blood. Endless flesh and blood. Endless howls. The collision of blood and fire. The most naked, bloody, and cruel battle. The impact of speed. The impact of strength. Tearing, slashing, piercing, and colliding. The demon dragon army had always been fearless. The demon wolf army had already forgotten about fear. They weren't afraid of death at all. Even after demonizing, they had been chasing after death. Countless weapons were broken and countless armors were torn. In the sky above the battlefield, a bloody mist burst out. Countless fresh blood covered the entire battlefield. In an instant, the demon dragon army and demon wolf army were completely covered by the bloody mist. Everyone gradually couldn't see the battle situation clearly. Fresh blood covered everyone's vision. There were only roars and no screams. There were only the sounds of weapons clashing, flesh tearing, and armors exploding. In the bloody mist shrouding the battlefield, almost no one could see who was winning or losing. The only thing they could do was to wait for the battle to end. This was the most cruel battle. It was short, or maybe it was just a short moment. It was very long, or maybe it was like a year. Countless pairs of eyes stared at the bloody mist that filled the sky and listened to the heart-wrenching sounds of battle. They waited for the battle to end. The sounds gradually became softer. In the end, there was almost no sound at all. The sound of swords clashing was no more. The sound of armors exploding was no more. The terrifying roars were also no more. The entire battlefield was silent. However, the bloody mist was still dense and didn't thin at all. Everyone held their breaths and stared at the bloody mist, waiting for the final result. Now, all they had to do was wait. Whichever side walked out of the blood mist would be the final victor. Suddenly, a demon wolf slowly walked out of the bloody mist and appeared in everyone's vision. The one who walked out was a demon wolf demon rider. Suddenly, Cloud Sky City was ice cold and filled with despair. In the Evil Way's army, there was an arrogant roar. "We won," Lin Yanmei said. "Oh," Qin Chichi said indifferently. 20,000 Golden Eagle army, prepare to attack and give Cloud Sky City a fatal blow. Kill everyone inside." "Yes," Lin Yanmei said. In the distance, Qiu Wanjie's expression changed and his body trembled. "There is no choice. There is no choice. Yang Dingtian, don't blame me." In the sky 100 miles to the west, Qiu Rohan was laughing wildly. Qin Wancho's face was ashen. He closed his eyes in extreme pain and muttered, "Yang Dingtian, there are no miracles. There are no miracles in this world." That demon wolf demon rider slowly walked in the direction of Cloud Sky City. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, a few bolts of lightning shot out from the bloody mist. Dozens of demon riders rushed out of the bloody mist and instantly killed that demon wolf, completely dismembering its corpse. Rumble! Immediately after, countless black dots and countless demon riders rushed out from the bloody mist. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands. Thousands. Finally, the dense and majestic demon dragon army rushed out of the bloody mist. Their bodies were covered in blood and minced meat. Finally, the entire demon dragon army gathered and formed a battle formation. The first commander bowed in the direction of Cloud Sky City and said, "Reporting to my lord, the demon dragon army has completed the battle mission. We have exterminated the entire demon wolf army. Victory!" Facing the army of 10,000 demonized demon wolves, the demon dragon warriors once again maintained their glory and obtained victory. In the sky above Cloud Sky City, there was an earth-shattering cheer. "Long live! Long live the demon dragon army!" The evil demon army's expression changed completely. They couldn't believe what was happening in front of them. "Golden Condor Army, attack! Don't leave a single person, grass, or tree in Cloud Heaven City!" Qin Chichi's voice was as cold as hell and was filled with killing intent. Chapter 484. Finally, the blood mist gradually faded. Everyone saw this hellish scene. Countless twisted corpses, countless twisted pieces of flesh. No land could be seen on the ground within dozens of miles. It was all covered in blood and corpses. The 10,000 demon wolf army were all dead. No one expected such an outcome. Not only the evil ways, but even Yang Dingtian's side did not expect such an outcome. The demon dragon army lost their killing intent and the demon wolf army demonized. With this increase and decrease, everyone thought that the demon dragon army would be completely annihilated. Even Yang Dingtian thought that even if the demon dragon army could win, there would be incomparably huge casualties. But in the end, the demon dragon army did not suffer more than 1,000 casualties. Of course, the demon dragon army did not dare to believe such an outcome. The momentum from the beginning of the battle was really shocking. The demon wolf mounts that were injected with demon blood had their speed and strength increased by 30%. Facing the demon dragon army, they were completely overwhelming. At the moment of the fierce collision, hundreds of demon dragon warriors were sent flying by the impact. One had to know that a demon dragon mount, a knight, and armor weighed at least a few thousand pounds. But they were actually sent flying by the demon wolf mounts. It could be seen how powerful the demonized demon wolf mounts were. However, the result of being sent flying was completely unbelievable. This was because the demon wolf mounts that sent the demon dragon warriors flying had the armor on their heads shattered and their skulls exploded. It launched a ferocious attack on its own, but it suffered even more damage. The following battle was the same. The demon wolf army was incomparably ferocious. Their gigantic barbaric blades slashed at the blood demon's sword. No matter how strong it was directly broken and sent flying. Even if his scimitar landed on the demon dragon warrior's armor, it would still shatter into pieces. Thus, the demonic dragon warrior once again felt how heaven-defying the demonic blood sword and the modified armor were. The weapons and armor that were modified by Yang Dingtian using tens of thousands of bloody black gold and demon spirit claws were really indestructible. Their own defensive power was also indestructible. So, no matter how violent the demon wolf army was, it was useless. Under the ferocious impact, even though he could send the demon dragon warrior flying, his own skull was shattered. No matter how ferocious the slash was, it was his own broadsword that broke. As for the demon dragon warrior's blood demon sword, it could easily tear apart their armor, easily pierce their hearts, and easily chop off their heads. Therefore, even if they lost their murderous aura, even if the demon wolf army was demonized, the devil dragon army was still in a one-sided slaughter. Of course, the casualties this time were not small. There were close to 1,000 casualties. Without exception, these demonic dragons were all clawed and bitten to death by the claws of the demonic wolves. After all, the demonized demon wolf was incomparably terrifying. However, other than ramming, wild beasts were still inferior to warriors when it came to killing. Furthermore, once the demon wolf started to tear its opponent apart, regardless of whether the opponent was dead or alive, it liked to bite and not let go. It would only stop after it had swallowed over 100 kilograms of flesh. If he had the time, he would have already been beheaded by the demon dragon warriors. Just like that, the most tragic massacre took place amidst the bloody mist that soared into the sky. After that, the 10,000 demon wolves were completely wiped out, while the devil dragon army had less than 1,000 casualties. Such a result was out of everyone's expectations. The reason for such a result was, of course, the bravery and fearlessness of the devil dragon army. Most importantly, it was the modified treasured swords, armors, and armor. Perhaps, it could be described in one sentence. That was science and technology, the number one productivity. These blood demon swords, these armors. It could be said that they were all used by the top warriors and not by the soldiers. Even the martial honorables in the world did not use such treasured swords and armors. However, Yang Dingtian's craziest investment was to equip a total of 3,500 sets. Therefore, the devil dragon army's combat strength increased tremendously. There was another piece of good news. Most of the casualties were from the demon dragon mounts, and not the demon dragon warriors. This was because the demon wolves only focused on biting the demon dragon mounts, and did not care about the knights on them. Therefore, after the battle ended, there was a slight delay because the demon dragon warriors wanted to pick up all the blood demon armor from the demon dragon mounts. These items were priceless. Most of the 3,000 demon dragon warriors were still around. Therefore, they only needed to wait for the World Society's demon dragon mounts to mature before they could choose. Then, the devil dragon army's combat strength would be restored. In the east, Qiu Wenjie was also completely shocked by this scene. Then, he shouted in unison. "All troops, continue to gather here and wait for orders." "Yes." Hundreds of thousands of cavalrymen shouted in unison. As for Qin Wanqiu of the west, he gave the same order under Qiu Ruhan's cruel and cold gaze. All troops gathered here and were not allowed to move. "Reporting to my lord, the devil dragon army awaits your orders." The remaining 2,000 demon dragon warriors gathered in formation again. However, there were already 2 warriors riding on some of the demon dragons. The 2,000 demon dragon army formed the shape of a sharp sword and pointed it at the hundreds of thousands of Evil Wei's army. They had just experienced the most dangerous and desperate battle. Although every demon dragon was injured and bleeding, they were still filled with fighting spirit. As long as Yang Dingtian gave the order, they would charge towards the incomparably powerful army of Evil Wei's. Song Chunhua and the others immediately looked at Yang Dingtian. The enemy's demon wolf army had already been annihilated, Therefore, it might be possible for the Devil Dragon army to harass the enemy's formation. At this moment, Yang Dingtian suddenly felt a ray of golden light flash past his eyes. Instantly, his heart trembled. They're here! They're finally here! The other trump card of the army of evil ways, the Golden Condor Army. Previously, the 800 Golden Condor Army had launched a surprise attack on Cloud Sky City. They were testing to see if Yang Dingtian had received any reinforcements from Earth-splitting city. In the end, they received a negative answer. Now that the Demon Wolf Army had been annihilated, the Demon Army's morale was low. This caused Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie to continue observing. In order to turn the situation around, Qin Chichi decisively used her true trump card, the Golden Condor Army, which was absolutely suppressive. Instantly, Yang Dingtian ordered, "Devil Dragon Army, listen to my order. Use the fastest speed to retreat to Cloud Sky City." His voice, which was infused with celestial qi, instantly traveled tens of miles and resounded in every corner of the battlefield. "Yes," the Devil Dragon Army commander replied. Then, the 2,000 Devil Dragon Army turned around and returned to the city at lightning speed. The 100,000 soldiers on the city walls cheered loudly to welcome their heroes. "Long live! Long live! Long live! Long live! Long live the Devil Dragon Army! Long live Cloud Sky City!" Suddenly, all the cheers, which were like a tidal wave, came to an abrupt stop. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at the distant sky. Countless rays of golden light instantly illuminated the earth and pierced everyone's eyes. The sky, which was hundreds of miles away, had completely changed color. Countless whistling sounds that tore through the air could be heard, forming a storm-like roar that completely drowned out the shocking war drums of the army of evil ways. A golden cloud quickly flew over. It covered the sky and covered the sun. Originally, the sun was shining on the earth, shining on the boundless army of evil ways. However, the countless army of evil ways suddenly felt that the sky above them had darkened. The entire sky was completely covered, and even the sun's rays were completely covered. Tens of miles were covered in darkness. Hundreds of miles were covered in darkness. The endless number of golden eagle-winged cavalry blocked the sky for nearly 100 miles. Huge shadows streaked across the ground, and huge golden rays were reflected in the sky. This ray of golden light fiercely pierced into Cloud Sky City. In an instant, almost everyone squinted their eyes, and almost couldn't see anything. The Golden Eagle army that covered the sky and covered the earth flew thousands of meters in the sky. No one knew how many there were. Even Yang Dingtian and Song Chunhua were completely unable to estimate how many Golden Eagle army there were. In short, they felt that the sky, which was hundreds of miles in front of Cloud Sky City, was completely covered. Only Qin Chichi knew the exact number. Ling Yanmei was shocked by this incomparably huge scene. Qiu Wanjie was shocked by this incomparably huge scene. Qin Wanzhou was also shocked by this incomparably huge scene. Cloud Sky City, no one can save it. Even though they were 200 miles apart, Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie still let out the same sigh. Qiu Ruhan sneered. "Then why aren't you sending out your troops?" Qin Wanzhou said. "It's too late to send out troops now. Qin Chichi has already destroyed Cloud Sky City with overwhelming power. I'm already prepared to bear the consequences of not moving forward." Hence, Qin Wanzhou floated in the sky dejectedly and didn't give any orders. As for Qiu Wanjie, after much hesitation, he said to Wu Maji, "Can you spare my son, Qiu Yiming's life?" "Sure," Wu Maji said. Qiu Wanjie's face twitched violently, and he thought to himself, "Yang Dingtian, don't blame me. Cloud Sky City really doesn't have any hope." Then Qiu Wanjie roared, "Send troops to Cloud Sky City!" Instantly, the 130,000 cavalrymen started to move their hooves and gallop towards Cloud Sky City. Faster and faster, faster and faster. Boom! 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 The 130,000 cavalrymen of the Eastern Legion swept up a sandstorm and swept towards Cloud Sky City. "Young madam, Qiu Wanjie has sent out troops," Lin Yanmei said. It's too late to send out troops now, Qin Chichi said indifferently. We won't even be able to eat leftovers. How many golden condor troops did we send out? Lin Yanmei asked. 30,000, Qin Chichi said. Lin Yanmei gasped and said in disbelief, so many. If we had sent out 30,000 golden condor troops just now, Cloud Sky City wouldn't have any power to resist. The demon wolf troops wouldn't have to be sacrificed, Qin Chichi said indifferently. The golden condor troops weren't sent out by us. It was Zhu Qingzhu's power. Do you understand? Instantly, Lin Yanmei understood. The evil Dao also had conflicts with each other. Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi were in charge of evil ways in the entire western region. However, the Temple of 10,000 Bloods Temple Master and Temple Master Joyless didn't respect Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi. Therefore, there weren't any Temple of 10,000 Blood and Joyless Palace troops in the punitive expedition this time. This punitive expedition against Cloud Sky City and Yang Dingtian was led by Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi. However, Zhu Qingzhu had the final say in evil ways in Central State. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, Qin Chichi really didn't want to send out the Golden Condor troops. Once the Golden Condor troops were used, it was equivalent to Zhu Qingzhu's hand reaching out to the entire western region. Therefore, not only was Qin Chichi unwilling to use the Golden Condor troops, but she was also unwilling to use the Central State Expeditionary Army. However, there was no choice. Who asked the Demon Wolf troops to be too disappointing? It caused Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie to openly sit on the fence on the battlefield. Qin Chichi was helpless and could only use the Golden Condor troops. Zhu Qingzhu was arrogant, so be it. It was better than letting Yang Dingtian be arrogant. At this moment, the 30,000 Golden Condor troops whizzed past the Evil Ways' army. Lin Yanmei said indifferently, Cloud Sky City is finished. However, it's a pity that the hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind us won't be able to eat meat, Qin Chichi said. Don't worry. Other than the 100,000 soldiers, Cloud Sky City still has more than 1 million people. Killing 200,000 to 300,000 Golden Condor troops would be enough. The remaining million would be enough for the hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind us to eat their fill. Instantly, a terrifying light burst out from Lin Yanmei's eyes. This strategy had been decided long ago. Attacking Cloud Sky City wasn't for victory or defeat, but to establish their might. Therefore, after Cloud Sky City fell, they would directly massacre the entire city. Cloud Sky City had more than 1 million people, and not a single person would be left alive. Miss, the people on top of Cloud Sky City are trembling, Lin Yanmei said with a smile. That's right. At this moment, the 100,000 soldiers on top of Cloud Sky City couldn't help but tremble. If they came from the ground, then they had the Devil Dragon army. If they came from the sky, even if there were only a few thousand of them, then City Lord Yang and the other experts could still kill for a while on ordinary flying mounts. Even if a few thousand Golden Condor troops charged into the city, although there would be huge losses, it wouldn't be a destructive blow. If the 30,000 Golden Condor troops entered the city, it would undoubtedly be destructive. The 100,000 soldiers on top of the city wall would undoubtedly be wiped out. Therefore, although the army on top of Cloud Sky City knew that they shouldn't be afraid and tremble, they still couldn't help but be afraid and tremble. The Golden Condor troops that blotted out the sky and covered the earth were getting closer and closer. As the sun was setting in the west, the sky above Cloud Sky City was already shrouded in shadows. Just as everyone in Cloud Sky City was in complete despair. Suddenly, an even more violent whistling sound came from behind. The whistling sound that tore through the air brought about an incomparably huge speed impact. Everyone couldn't help but turn around to look. Instantly, they saw a scene that made their blood boil. Countless huge and mighty black flying mounts were like giant spirit beasts, whistling and stopping at a low altitude. 1,000 demon condor troops quickly flew out of Big Cloud Sky Mountain, flying at a low altitude at a speed of 500 kilometers per hour. Even though this would cause a huge sound, a huge whirlwind would blow, and all the tents in the city would be blown down. But when everyone in the city saw the demon condor troops whistling through the sky, they were first completely stunned, then they let out a cry of ecstasy. Immediately after, countless people on the ground madly chased after these countless black spirits. The golden condor troops were less than 20 miles away from Cloud Sky City. At this moment, from Qin Chi-Chi's vision, she saw Yang Dingtian, riding an incomparably huge demon condor king, slowly rising into the sky. Whoosh! Then, this demon condor king, facing the 30,000 golden condor troops, quickly rushed into the sky. Ling Yemei laughed out loud and said, Yang Dingtian, a few days ago, 1 horse against 800. He borrowed the power of the lightning in the sky to avoid the disaster of Cloud Sky City. Today, he still wants to fight against 30,000 with 1 horse? Unfortunately, there are no dark clouds in the sky, and the sky is clear. Qin Chi-Chi said indifferently. This person is a lunatic, a stupid lunatic. Whoosh! In Cloud Sky City, a man and a horse whistled through the sky, charging towards the 30,000 golden condor troops with lightning speed. Immediately, when the army of evil ways saw this scene, they all let out a huge ridicule. Immediately after, their ridicule was swallowed. The second black shadow. The third black shadow. Fourth, fifth, sixth, dozens, hundreds, thousands. In the end, countless black shadows suddenly drilled out from behind the Cloud Sky City wall and rushed into the sky. Finally, 1,000 meters in the air, they arranged into a square formation and whistled towards the 30,000 golden condor troops. Each demon condor was twice as fast as the golden condor flying mount. The flying speed of each demon condor flying mount was nearly twice as fast as the golden condor army. The crazily charging demon condor army's speed reached 1,000 miles per hour. The whistling sound of tearing through the air was not something that a flying mount could have. This sound was almost exactly the same as the fighter jets of the Earth era. That kind of whistling impact was unparalleled. Lin Yanmei's face was pale, and she muttered to herself, Impossible! This is impossible! How is this possible? Didn't they say that Cloud Sky City doesn't have a demon condor army? In the mobile palace where Qin Chi-Chi was, the air suddenly turned cold. Yang Dingtian, this madman, this cunning madman, he obviously has the demon condor army, but he hid it and risked his life to fight against my 800 golden condor army with 1 man and 1 mount. This cunning madman, just for this moment, Qin Chi-Chi hissed. Miss, the demon condor army, at most, will not exceed 1,000. We have 30,000, can we fight? Ling Yanmei asked. 30,000 against 1,000, if we can't win, the eagle nest should not exist, Qin Chi-Chi said coldly. Suddenly, a sharp bone whistle came from the air. Suddenly, the 30,000 golden condor army in the air all changed formation. From a flat surface, it became 3-dimensional. Falling from above, layer upon layer, 3-dimensional. The 30,000 golden condor army turned into an incomparably huge devil's mouth in the air, swallowing towards the demon condor army of 1,000. This was an incomparably spectacular scene. In the thousands of years of Earth's history, it was impossible to see such a big scene. The air battle of tens of thousands of air forces. 1,000 demon condor army condensed into a sharp arrow and shot out fiercely. The 30,000 golden condor army condensed into a huge devil's mouth, growing bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger. The devil formed by the 30,000 golden condor army was tens of thousands of meters tall and tens of thousands of meters wide, like a giant beast swallowing the sky. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, the black arrow formed by the demon condor army shot into the huge devil's mouth. The devil's mouth formed by the 30,000 golden condor army suddenly closed. Suddenly, the demon condor army completely disappeared, completely swallowed by the 30,000 golden condor army. Then, the devil's formation formed by the 30,000 golden condor army kept shrinking and condensing. This kind of shrinking, this kind of condensation, of course, was to crush the demon condor army alive and tear it apart. Looking at the ancient wonder in the sky, Qin Wanchou said lightly, Yang Dingtian, you are too conceited. You actually crashed into the Devil's Formation. Once the air forces are surrounded, they will definitely die. The Devil's Formation formed by the 30,000 Golden Condor army became more and more condensed, more and more condensed. In the end, the 30,000 were almost completely squeezed together, from a diameter of tens of thousands of meters to a diameter of a few thousand meters. Although at this time, the most tragic battle was happening in the air. However, no feathers fell, no corpses fell, and no blood sputtered. The entire battle took place at the core of the Devil's Formation. The entire battle was surrounded by countless Golden Condor army layer by layer. Everyone was burning with anxiety, waiting for the result of the battle. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud noise. A black sharp sword suddenly pierced out of the Devil's Formation. Then, countless Golden Condors, like startled birds, suddenly flew in all directions. In an instant, from a diameter of a few thousand meters, they instantly covered tens of thousands of meters. Then, it was countless feathers, countless blood, and countless corpses. Like raindrops, they fell like a storm. It was impossible to count how many corpses, how much minced meat, and all the blood. In the hundreds of thousands of troops of evil ways, it was as if there was a scarlet rain of blood. Countless fresh blood sprinkled on the bodies of everyone in the army of evil ways. Countless feathers, like golden snow, fell one after another. Countless Golden Condor corpses and Golden Condor warriors' corpses, like a meteor shower, fell one after another. More than 1,000 Demon Condor army were swallowed alive by the Devil's Formation formed by 30,000 Golden Condors. They were surrounded, however, in the three-dimensional encirclement. Inside the Devil's mouth, more than 1,000 Demon Condor army held brand new blood demon swords in their hands. They carried out a crazy massacre. That's right. On average, each Demon Condor was surrounded by dozens of Golden Condors. However, it was useless. 1,000 Golden Condors were all gathered together, as if they were a whole. Around them, there were only a few thousand Golden Condors fighting in close quarters. From top to bottom, left to right, from all directions, they attacked in three-dimensional. However, the Demon Condor army was also fighting in three-dimensional. Because the Demon Condor army formed a sharp arrow formation. Not every Demon Condor was facing in one direction. Their sharp swords and claws were also in front, back, left, and right, in all directions. Just like that, at the core of the Devil's Formation. The Demon Condor army and the Golden Condor army carried out the craziest battle. Here, the Golden Condor army's numerical advantage was suppressed to the minimum. At any moment, the 1,000 Demon Condor army's opponents were not more than 5,000 Golden Condor army's opponents. 1,000 versus 5,000. The Demon Condor army was completely a one-sided massacre. Each Demon Condor's strength, speed, tenacity, and agility were more than twice that of the Golden Condors. Yang Dingtian's Demon Condor King used the Whirlwind Wing Slash that day and killed a total of 200 Golden Condors. Of course, not every Demon Condor had the cultivation of a martial venerable. However, any Demon Condor could easily fight 5 Golden Condors alone and not be defeated. Therefore, in the Devil's Formation, they once again faced a one-sided massacre, killing all 5,000 Golden Condors. Immediately, another 5,000 Golden Condors surrounded them. Then, they killed another 5,000 Golden Condors. However, because of the dense Devil's Formation, not to mention corpses, even feathers and blood could not sputter out. Wave after wave, they killed them all. After killing a total of 4 waves, when more than 50,000 Golden Condors were killed, the Golden Condor army finally collapsed. Moreover, the Devil's Formation could not be maintained. In an instant, the entire Devil's Formation collapsed. The remaining less than 10,000 Golden Condors were also scared out of their wits. They flew in all directions and fled frantically. All of a sudden, everyone was stunned. Previously, the 3,500 Demon Dragon army had fought against the 25,000 Demon Wolf army. Cloud Sky City had obtained an overwhelming victory and slaughtered the enemy. Their casualties were less than 30%. This had already caused Cloud Sky City to be in an uproar and shocked everyone. At this moment, the 1,000 Demon Condor army had obtained results that were even more glorious than the 3,500 Demon Dragon army. Even with a 30 times difference in numbers, it was still a one-sided massacre. Looking at the Golden Condor army that was fleeing in all directions, Yang Dingtian suddenly ordered, "Whirlwind Wing Slash, activate!" Suddenly, everyone in the air saw an incomparably stunning and shocking scene. 1,000 demon condors formed a sharp blade. Then, all the demon condors whistled as they flew and spun crazily. The huge wings that were dozens of meters long were as hard as iron. They were like huge sharp blades as they spun crazily. The 1,000 demon condors turned into an incomparably huge sharp blade as they chased after the fleeing golden condors. They had completely turned into a huge killing machine under the rapid rotation of the 1,000 steel blade wings. Wherever they passed, countless golden condors died without a complete corpse. They were instantly minced into meat paste. Suddenly, countless golden feathers flew down like a snowstorm. Countless fresh blood and meat paste splattered on the ground. However, there were no complete corpses that fell. The golden condors that were slaughtered by the whirlwind slash had all died without a complete corpse. It was an incomparably stunning scene. The demon condor army, as the king of the sky, could even do such a stunning and even romantic massacre. The huge wings spun like a windmill, but what they brought was a bloody light that soared into the sky. Whirlwind wing slash! In an instant, more than 60% of the 10,000 golden condor army that were fleeing were slaughtered. There was no other way. The demon condor army's flying speed was too fast. Even if they kept spinning their wings, their flying speed was not inferior to the golden condor army. At this moment, the remaining few thousand golden condor army had scattered in all directions. They were already very scattered. Spread out and kill them one by one, Yang Dingtian ordered. Yes. Immediately, the 1,000 demon condor army suddenly spread out. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Like a fighter jet, each demon condor, with itself as a unit, quickly chased after the fleeing golden condor army. The demon condor army's full speed was twice that of the golden condors. Therefore, the pitiful golden condor army was almost instantly caught up. And these demon condors seemed to have not had enough. Once they caught up, they would definitely not use their weapons. They would directly use another whirlwind slash. Then, the pitiful golden condor only had time to let out a scream. Immediately after, it was immediately twisted into a pile of mud. Just like that, the remaining golden condor flying cavalry quickly disappeared and were quickly slaughtered. Of course, some people might say why not capture them? The remaining few thousand golden condors would be captured, and Cloud Sky City would have its own flying cavalry army. Capturing them was fine, but it was impossible to take them for oneself. Even if they died, the Golden Condor flying cavalry would not be controlled by Cloud Sky City. They were demon beasts, not humans. Humans would betray, but demon beasts would almost never betray. Looking at the Golden Condor army in the sky, there were fewer and fewer. Chin Chi felt a chill all over her body. Her wisdom was as deep as the sea, but she had never thought of this result. The two trump cards of the demon army were actually completely wiped out under the small Cloud Sky City. The 25,000 demon wolf army was enough to destroy Cloud Sky City dozens of times. She did not expect that in front of the 3,500 demon dragon army, they would be completely wiped out. The 30,000 Golden Condor army was enough to destroy Cloud Sky City hundreds of times. She did not expect that in front of the 1,000 Demon Condor army, they would still be completely wiped out. Chin Chi only felt a towering anger that wanted to burn her to ashes. She also wanted to completely burn the entire Cloud Sky City to ashes. She took a deep breath. Chin Chi said indifferently, "All right, let's not play games. 10,000 Crystal Crossbow Cavalry Army, split up on both sides and defend against the enemy's Demon Dragon Army and Demon Condor Army. As long as the Demon Condor Army is 100 feet away from the ground, immediately fire. If you see any demon dragon army in your field of vision, immediately fire. Yes. 100,000 beast cavalry, 500,000 infantry, set off and flatten Cloud Sky City. Chin-Chi-Chi gave the order. Countless war drums sounded. Countless bugles sounded. Then, the 600,000 troops of the evil ways set off again and headed towards Cloud Sky City. 3,000 catapults ready, 3 miles away from Cloud Sky City, fire! 5,000 large-sized crystal crossbows ready, 2 miles away from Cloud Sky City, fire! In the air, Yang Dingtian saw the hundreds of thousands of troops of the evil ways set off. The decisive battle has finally arrived. Cloud Sky City's absolute secret weapon has also revealed itself. Bloodthirsty. Chapter 485. After the 10,000 crystal crossbow beasts and 5,000 large crystal crossbows of the demon army were lifted, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Killing weapons that could destroy heaven and earth. It was an absolute weapon of mass destruction, enough to destroy Cloud Sky City several times over. When the Golden Eagle army was destroyed, Qiu Wanjie's cavalry had already slowed down and was about to stop. After seeing these killing weapons, Qiu Wanjie immediately gave the order to advance at full speed and attack Cloud Sky City. After killing all the Golden Eagle army, Yang Dingtian led the Demon Eagle army and didn't return to Cloud Sky City immediately. Instead, they continued to hover in the sky. At this moment, the Demon Eagle army's air force had been completely wiped out. They didn't have any power left to threaten the Demon Eagle army. As long as they didn't get close to the ground, the Demon Eagle army's crystal crossbows wouldn't be able to threaten the Demon Eagle army. Just like this, Yang Dingtian hovered in the sky and looked down at the Evil Ways army that was advancing towards Cloud Sky City. This scene was really shocking. An army of 600,000. Among them, there were hundreds of thousands of various beast cavalry that were spread out on both sides of the army and slowly advanced. In the middle, there were 500,000 soldiers of various kinds. About 400,000 soldiers of the barbarian race. Hundreds of thousands of elite soldiers of various forces. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers marched towards Cloud Sky City in an orderly manner, trampling on the dust that filled the sky. Yang Dingtian flew back and forth in the sky above the army. Previously, it was already shocking enough when he saw it from Cloud Sky City's walls. Now that he was hovering in the sky, it was even more shocking. This was a scene that had never been seen before. The army that spanned dozens of miles was like a giant beast, and also like a black cloud that covered the ground. It was shocking as it advanced. The first battle was a battle of cavalry. The second battle was a battle of air forces. Yang Dingtian obtained a glorious victory. Of course, it was because of the strength of the Demon Dragon army and the Demon Eagle army, as well as the Blood Demon sword and Blood Demon armor. Another reason was Chin-Chi-Chi and Ning Wuming's arrogance and conceit. For example, half of the 25,000 soldiers of the Demon Wolf army were sent to attack Cloud Sky City instead of the Demon Dragon army. In that case, the 100,000 soldiers of Cloud Sky City would not be able to resist at all. Without a doubt, it would be a fatal blow to Cloud Sky City. Even the 3,500 members of the Devil Dragon army would find it difficult to defend against the Demon Wolf army that was 8 times their size. However, Chin-Chi-Chi didn't do that. She wanted the 25,000 Demon Wolf army to wipe out the Devil Dragon army before attacking Cloud Heaven City. In the end, the entire Demonic Wolf army was annihilated. The second time, the 30,000 Golden Condor Legion. He could also send 10,000 of them to destroy the Demon Condor army, and the other 20,000 to attack Cloud Sky City. However, Chin-Chi-Chi still did not do that. Instead, she chose to let the Golden Condor army surround the Demon Condor army. An unprecedented aerial battle took place in the air. Of course, it wasn't that Chin-Chi-Chi and Ning Wuming weren't stupid enough to make such a fatal mistake. On the contrary, this pair was very smart, at least much smarter than Yang Dingtian. The reason for such a mistake was because of their pride and conceit, as well as their strategic direction. They felt that it would be a piece of cake to destroy a small city like Cloud Sky City. With just a light puff of air, it would be completely crushed. Their strategic direction was not to defeat Cloud Sky City at all. Instead, they would use the power of the universe to completely crush and shatter it. With an aura that could destroy heaven and earth, they would sweep across in an instant. What they pursued was not killing, but a one-sided destruction. Only in this way could they cause a huge shock to the entire world and make all the forces in the world surrender, and not dare to act rashly. Therefore, when the demon dragon army appeared, they only had one goal, and that was to completely destroy the demon dragon army. When the demon condor army appeared, they also only had one goal, and that was to completely destroy the demon condor army. They completely pursued a one-sided scene and divided their forces to attack Cloud Sky City's walls. Don't joke around. Cloud Sky City's walls were the weakest. They could attack any time. However, they never dreamed that the demon wolf army that was 10 times stronger than them, the Golden Condor Legion, would be completely annihilated. Therefore, Chin-Chi-Chi was completely enraged. They were completely forced to the edge of the cliff. Next, they could no longer play any tricks. They had to use a serious attitude to destroy Cloud Sky City. Therefore, the hundreds of thousands of troops immediately became solemn. The huge beast mounts on both sides carried medium-sized crystal crossbows to defend against the Demon Condor Army and the Demon Dragon Army. With 10,000 medium-sized crystal crossbows, as long as Yang Dingtian did not go crazy, he would definitely not dare to let the Demon Condor Army and the Demon Dragon Army collide with them. That was definitely a path to death. Yang Dingtian had already tasted the power of the crystal crossbows. In Sky Thunder City, less than 1,000 crystal crossbow warriors had already caused fatal losses to the Demon Dragon Army. At this moment, not to mention 10,000 medium-sized crystal crossbows. Whether it was the Demon Condor Army or the Demon Dragon Army that rushed forward, they would definitely be killed by the torrential rain of arrows. It was ridiculous to say that if the army of evil ways was willing to put down their grudges, if they put the medium-sized crystal crossbows on the back of the Golden Condor Army, then it would be the Demon Condor Army that would be completely annihilated. Unfortunately, Chin-Chi-Chi did not want to let Shu Qingzhu off so easily. She firmly believed that Cloud Sky City did not have an air force. Thirdly, she was unwilling to sacrifice the speed advantage of the Golden Condor Army. Therefore, she directly sent out 30,000 Golden Condors. In the end, they were all killed. Yang Dingtian constantly hovered above the hundreds of thousands of demons. He did not find any opportunities. Although the 10,000 crystal crossbow beasts were slow, they blocked off any sneak attacks in the air or on the ground. At the front of the army, powerful and ferocious beasts dragged 3,000 trebuchets and 5,000 large crystal crossbows forward. 3,000 trebuchets and 5,000 large crystal crossbows. These two forces were enough to completely smash Cloud Sky City into ruins. "Return to the city!" Yang Dingtian, who could not find any opportunities, ordered. Immediately, the 1,000 Demon Condor Army whistled back to Cloud Sky City. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers continued to approach, and approach. 2 hours later, 3,000 trebuchets had already reached 3 miles in front of Cloud Sky City. The army continued to advance. All the trebuchets were surrounded by the hundreds of thousands of soldiers. After another 15 minutes, the 5,000 large crystal crossbows had also reached 2 miles in front of Cloud Sky City. Once the giant crystal crossbows and trebuchets were assembled, Cloud Sky City would face a destructive attack. Chin-Chi-Chi said indifferently, "Everything is finally over. It's a pity that the show before was too ugly." Then, Chin-Chi-Chi ordered, "Originally, I did not intend to kill Yang Dingtian's woman and wanted to take her as my concubine. Now I have changed my mind. Yang Dingtian made me look bad, so I will make him feel bad. After capturing Qin Jiaojiao, let 100 barbarians explode her. Then, execute her in front of everyone." Consider it a punishment for Qin Huangqiu. Yes, Lin Yan said. The Eastern Army was currently 50 miles away from Cloud Sky City. After seeing the 10,000 medium crystal crossbows, 5,000 large crystal crossbows, and 3,000 trebuchets, Qin Huangqiu did not care. He urged the hundreds of thousands of soldiers to charge towards Cloud Sky City in an attempt to reverse the unfavorable situation of the divine weapons manner. When the Western Army's Qin Huangqiu saw these killing machines, he sighed softly. Qin Chichi schemed to exterminate Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian is powerless to reverse the situation. What Demon Wolf Army? What Golden Eagle Army? They are all inferior to the crystal crossbows and infantry. All right, as you wish, Qin Huangqiu said indifferently to Qiu Ruhan. Then, Qin Huangqiu ordered loudly. Advance! Charge towards Cloud Sky City! Advance courageously and do not stop! Qin Huangqiu finally gave the most resolute order. The army of 150,000 charged towards Cloud Sky City at full speed. There was no chance for them to turn back or stop. Lady, Qin Huangqiu has also made his move. He is charging towards Cloud Sky City at full speed, Lin Yan said. Late, it is a little late. There will still be punishment in the future, but it is better than stubbornly resisting until the end, Qin Chichi said. On Cloud Sky City's walls, City Lord Qin Huangqiu's Western Army and Qiu Wenjie's Eastern Army are advancing at full speed, Jiao Liao said indifferently. Got it, Yang Dingtian said. They are frightened by the 3,000 trebuchets, 5,000 large crystal crossbows, and 10,000 crystal crossbow beast riders. The key is the 10,000 crossbow beast riders. Otherwise, there is no need for the Demon Eagle Army. Just the Demon Dragon Army alone is enough to destroy the trebuchets and large crystal crossbows, Qin Huaiyu said. All troops stop, Qin Chichi ordered. Immediately, the stop signal drum was sounded. Bang! There was a loud sound. Evil Way's 600,000 troops stopped. They were 2 miles away from Cloud Sky City. The entire Cloud Sky City was completely surrounded. Assemble the trebuchets and the large crystal crossbows. Smash Cloud Sky City into ruins, Qin Chichi ordered coldly. Then, the signal drum sounded. A few hundred small winged cavalry warriors flew towards the front to convey Qin Chichi's order. Immediately, tens of thousands of people began to move. They began to assemble the trebuchets and the large crystal crossbows. Once they were done, Cloud Sky City would be completely destroyed. Advance, full speed ahead, Qin Huangqiu shouted. We must reach Cloud Sky City before it is destroyed. We must be the first to charge into Cloud Sky City. Only by rushing into Cloud Sky City before the infantrymen would the evil ways be punished in the future. It would also be lighter. Boom! 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 Countless war drums sounded. 3,000 large trebuchets were gradually assembled into giant beasts that were more than 10 meters tall. These trebuchets could throw boulders that weighed more than 1,000 kilograms a few miles away. The large crystal crossbows were gradually assembled into large killing machines that were close to 10 meters wide and tens of thousands of kilograms heavy. These large crossbows could shoot more than 10 giant arrows 1,000 meters away. Each arrow weighed more than 10 kilograms and could even pierce through Cloud Sky City's walls. 3,000 large trebuchets were lined up, spanning dozens of miles. 5,000 large crystal crossbows were lined up, spanning dozens of miles. This was definitely a force that could destroy heaven and earth. Cloud Sky City would not be able to withstand even 10 waves of attacks. When Yang Dingtian saw these killing machines, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Evil Ways had really invested a lot of capital. These killing machines were more than enough to attack 10 Cloud Sky Cities. Yang Dingtian asked Ximen Lai, Are the secret killing machines ready? They are all ready. 120 miles of city walls with a total of 530 fortresses. Each fortress has 4 shooting holes. Each fortress has 400 magic balls of various types, Ximen Lai said. Good. After half a year of accumulation, I can finally release them all today, Yang Dingtian said loudly. I want to see if my secret weapon is the killing machine or the evil ways crystal crossbows and trebuchets are the killing machines. Yang Dingtian flew into the sky. He flew along the city walls from west to east. Everyone, remember today! Today, we will make history! Once our weapons appear, the world will be shocked. Open! Yang Dingtian abruptly gave an order. Open! Instantly, thousands of people shouted in unison. Whoosh! On the city walls, the black curtains on the 500 fortresses' shooting holes were neatly opened. Evil Wei's army, Qiu Wanjie, and Qin Huaqiu all opened their eyes wide and looked at what Yang Dingtian had blown into the sky. What exactly was it? Whoosh! After the curtains were opened, a cold and dark aura suddenly emerged. 2,000 huge cannons were facing the army of hundreds of thousands of demons. What was Yang Dingtian's secret killing machine? Of course, it was the cannons. When Yang Dingtian was destroying the pirates, he had used primitive trebuchets to deliver primitive gunpowder packs. After becoming the Cloud Heaven City Lord, the first thing Yang Dingtian did was to order Shimen Lai to secretly manufacture higher-grade gunpowder and cannons. Of course, these cannons were originally meant to deal with Qin Chichi's army of 100,000. It was also meant to defend Cloud Sky City. Therefore, he originally planned to only make about 100 cannons. Because in his impression, when technology was not advanced, it was very difficult to make cannons. During the Ming Dynasty, the entire country only managed to make about 100 cannons. Because the forging process at that time was too primitive. In the end, Yang Dingtian made a mistake based on his experience. In ancient China, it was difficult to make cannons, but in the chaotic continent, it was a simple matter. In ancient China, the most difficult thing was to make qualified steel. In the chaotic continent, basically all the metals that were forged surpassed the steel of Earth. Therefore, the materials for cannons were almost endless. Therefore, even if these cannons were a little bumpy, they would not explode. In ancient China, the most difficult thing was to form cannons. Here, as long as the molten iron was poured into the mold, it would be done. Next, a little polishing would be enough. Therefore, the creation of cannons became extremely simple in the special martial arts civilization of the chaotic world, and in special minerals. But even so, Yang Dingtian only ordered the production of 200 cannons. Later, when he knew that the million-strong army was about to attack Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian ordered the production to increase again and produce 2,000 cannons. At this time, there were already tens of thousands of people in the underground forging factory of Cloud Sky City. In the special environment of the chaotic world, 2,000 cannons were not difficult at all. In ancient China, special craftsmen were needed. Here, as long as there was a leader, a person, and a rigid work, they could make cannons. Moreover, Yang Dingtian had 4 mystic fire warriors and 2 heaven and earth mystic fires. Therefore, in the end, he actually used the mystic fire to polish and bombard the cannons. This caused the quality of the cannons to increase by several levels. They were even more elite than the cannons of the Earth era. Later, Yang Dingtian even used the mystic fire to draw a rifling in the cannons. In the Earth era, there was a huge problem with cannons, which was that they were too heavy and difficult to transport. Therefore, Yang Dingtian also hesitated about how big the cannons should be. Considering that the materials were sufficient and the production was simple, Yang Dingtian directly ordered the production of 5,000 catty cannons, which was already larger than the conventional cannons of the Earth era. Later, the Devil Dragon army came. This overlord of the land could carry tens of thousands of catties. Yang Dingtian simply changed the order and doubled the size of the cannons. Therefore, he knew that the cannons were more than 10,000 catties. This was already larger than most of the ancient long-song cannons of the earth. The length of the cannons had already reached 7 or 8 meters. The cannonballs fired had also exceeded 30 catties. As for the gunpowder, Yang Dingtian no longer chose the most primitive black gunpowder, because it was too easy to imitate. Yang Dingtian chose a higher level of gunpowder, which at least needed to be made through simple chemical processes. This way, it was almost impossible to imitate in the chaotic world. Yang Dingtian's knowledge of gunpowder was very limited, so even if the gunpowder was of a higher level, the power was not strong enough. Who knew, with the help of the secret masters, various crystal powders and special medicinal liquids were added. It actually increased the power of the gunpowder by several times, even 10 times. In this way, the gunpowder that Yang Dingtian had was not inferior to the high-level gunpowder of the earth, and its lethality was extremely shocking. Of course, making gunpowder was very dangerous. But in the chaotic world, there was no problem. Yang Dingtian got a large pool of unfreezing water. The final mixing of the gunpowder was completed in the unfreezing water. In an extremely cold environment, the gunpowder could not explode at all. Moreover, the unfreezing water had a heaven-defying function, which was that the gunpowder would not get wet. In the end, with tens of thousands of people working in the underground forging factory and Qin Mingli's astronomical number of materials, Yang Dingtian produced hundreds of thousands of cannonballs. Of course, the most important bottleneck was the production of gunpowder. Qin Mingli selected 100 people to specialize in the production of gunpowder. These 100 people would always live underground, and it was absolutely confidential. However, the production of gunpowder was still not high. Fortunately, the production of gunpowder had started half a year ago and had not stopped. Otherwise, with just this 1 month, 100 people would not be able to produce the gunpowder needed for hundreds of thousands of cannonballs. The Devil Dragon Army and the Devil Vulture Army were already shocking enough, but that was only a preview. It was a performance that truly belonged to Yang Dingtian, a performance that truly belonged to Cloud Sky City. Now, with these 2,000 huge cannons and these hundreds of thousands of cannonballs. After the 2,000 cannons were opened, the hundreds of thousands of Evil Wei's army was shocked, then they laughed loudly. With these broken iron pipes? Killing the Evil Wei's army? Was this a dream? Was Yang Dingtian crazy? When Qin Chichi saw these iron pipes, she could not help but be stunned. She shook her head and said, "Is Yang Dingtian crazy? What kind of bullshit is this?" When Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wenjie saw these things, the first thing that came to their minds was Yang Dingtian crazy? These iron pipes were stupid and heavy. What was the use of them? Even Cloud Sky City's army felt that these stupid iron pipes were useless. After Qin Chichi laughed, she said indifferently, "After equipping them, prepare to attack and destroy Cloud Sky City." Creak! Amidst the terrifying sounds, the 5,000 huge crystal crossbows were pulled by dozens of people and started to open. The huge trebuchets started to be pulled down forcefully. A destructive attack on Cloud Sky City was about to begin. Yang Dingtian looked at the large crystal crossbows and trebuchets that were dozens of miles away. "You won't have any chance to fire." Yang Dingtian flew in the air and slowly raised his hand. "The chaotic world will remember today. Cloud Sky City will create history. Cloud Sky City will shock the world." Then, Yang Dingtian fiercely waved his sword. "Fire!" In an instant, an earth-shattering roar sounded. Countless fire dragons rushed into the sky. Chapter 486. 2,000 cannons roared in unison. Countless fire dragons suddenly drilled out. Suddenly, a deafening sound rang out, completely suppressing the ear-splitting war drums of the evil demon army. The terrifying explosion was like a clap of thunder, causing the entire place to tremble violently. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! 2,000 huge cannonballs tore through the air and flew out of the Cloud Sky City wall with a series of sonic booms. All the Evil Wei's army was completely stunned at this moment. They didn't even know what it was that shot out. In just a second, 2,000 cannonballs formed a metal storm that fiercely smashed into the large catapults, the large crystal ballistae, and the Evil Path's army. Boom! 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 Then, the cannonballs exploded with earth-shattering sounds. In an instant, the light of the sun was completely blocked. The flames of the explosion almost blinded people's eyes. This earth-shattering sound made countless demon army cover their ears in pain. Their eardrums were pierced and blood flowed out. This earth-shattering sound and explosion caused the entire ground to tremble. The beast cavalry dragging the medium-sized crystal crossbows could no longer control themselves. They were frantically frightened and ran in all directions. But this was nothing. The most terrifying thing was these cannonballs, the flames at the moment of explosion, the terrifying power at the moment of explosion. In an instant, the huge and sturdy crystal crossbows were torn into pieces. The even larger catapults were like children's toys. They were instantly shattered and thrown into the air. That's right, Yang Dingtian used exploding bombs. Coupled with the chaotic world's secret medicine and crystal powder, the power was endless. Each cannonball contained dozens of kilograms of explosives. Once it exploded, everything within dozens of meters would be smashed into pieces. Of course, Cloud Sky City didn't have professional cannoneers. And for the sake of confidentiality, the shooting training ground was located deep in the mountains. Thousands of cannoneers, each of them didn't train more than a few dozen rounds. Moreover, Yang Dingtian didn't know how to shoot cannoneers himself, so they had to rely on themselves to figure it out. Therefore, these cannoneers weren't very professional. However, the situation in front of them was too easy to shoot. They didn't even need to aim. The catapults were spread out for dozens of miles. The giant crystal ballistae were spread out dozens of kilometers wide. It could really be said that he could hit him even with his eyes closed. The most difficult part of this blossom bomb was how to make it explode after hitting the ground. It shouldn't explode midway, and it shouldn't explode as soon as it was launched. As for this, Yang Dingtian's pitiful knowledge of science and technology would not be able to do it. Even when it came to the construction of cannons, he only proposed a theory and drew a model. In the end, the final shape of the cannons was created by the craftsmen themselves. There was no way Yang Dingtian could make the cannonball explode when it hit the bottom. Therefore, in the beginning, Yang Dingtian planned to directly make solid bullets. This way, although the lethality would be much weaker, at least it would not be dangerous. In the end, this problem was solved by the mystics of the Chaos world. How did he solve it? It was very simple. It was a special crystal. When the cannonball landed on the ground or hit the target, it would cause an intense impact. Using this kind of impact, the crystal would first cause a small explosion, which would then detonate the dozens of kilograms of gunpowder in the bomb. Of course, another problem arose. The moment the cannonball was fired, there would also be an intense vibration. Would it cause the cannonball to explode prematurely? Regarding this point, the mystics solved it after a long period of experimentation. Of course, Yang Dingtian did not know how to solve the problem in the field of mystics, but it seemed to be some kind of blocking method between the crystals. The first vibration when the cannonball was fired would cause the crystals to break through this barrier. Another intense impact would cause the explosion. In short, with the contributions of Qin Mingli's team of mystics, they successfully created a safe cannonball. Therefore, there was the earth-shattering result before their eyes. Boom, 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 boom. Nearly 2,000 cannonballs exploded at the same time. This was a super big scene on Earth. One must know that in the Battle of Upper Gonling during the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea, the United Nations Army only deployed a few hundred cannons. When nearly 2,000 cannonballs exploded at the same time, it was really earth-shattering. One could only see that the area within dozens of kilometers was instantly engulfed by flames and smoke. Then, nothing could be seen. Countless giant crystal crossbows were smashed into pieces. Countless large trebuchets were smashed into pieces. Countless barbarian troops were instantly blasted into minced meat. The beast riders of the demon army threw off the riders on their bodies and ran away crazily. Even an army of hundreds of thousands was surging like a tide. The troops closest to the cannonballs were not killed by the explosion. Instead, they were shaken to death. The flames dissipated. The smoke was slightly thinner. Then, everyone saw a hellish scene. Most of the giant crystal crossbows were already shattered. Most of the large trebuchets were already smashed into pieces. The barbarian troops around them were all turned into minced meat. Of course, nearly half of these weapons of mass destruction could still be used. However, the ground within dozens of kilometers had been completely turned into ruins. Almost all the people inside were dead, and no one would use them. All the evil Ways' army was deathly silent at first. Then, they suddenly exploded and fled crazily to the back. Qin did not walk out of the palace. But the entire palace was shaking. Impossible! 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 Lin Yanmei looked as if she had seen a ghost. Her entire body was trembling as she looked at this scene in disbelief. And the most shocked ones were undoubtedly the army on the city walls of Cloud Sky City. They stood at a high place and saw it the clearest. God? City Lord Yang's secret weapon was actually so heaven-defying and powerful. Not only were they trembling, but they also felt their hair stand on end. Song Chunhua, Qin Huayu, and Zhu Hongxue looked at Yang Dingtian with infinite shock and admiration. Sect Master, we are really going to shock the world. We are really going to make history. Suppressing all the shock, but unable to suppress the shock in her eyes, Qin Chi slowly walked out of the mobile palace. Her entire body was covered in a purple cloak. She ordered indifferently, "Let the Ning clan's troops begin to maintain order. Blow the bewitching horn. All the troops, advance at full speed and attack Cloud Sky City regardless of life and death. All those who retreat will die." Yes. Oh. Suddenly, the army of evil Ways suddenly sounded a strange horn that was filled with the power of demonic souls. In an instant, the hundreds of thousands of barbarian troops that had been injected with special medicine gradually lost the fear in their eyes. What replaced it was a daze. Then, like walking corpses, they gathered together again. Boom! Then, in the midst of the earth-shattering war drums, hundreds of thousands of troops began to advance towards Cloud Sky City like a tide. Yang Dingtian looked at the army of demons that was like a tide. There were more than 600,000 of them, and they covered the sky and covered the earth as they rushed towards Cloud Sky City. Full speed cannon fire! Yang Dingtian suddenly ordered. Yes, full speed cannon fire! Then, the 2,000 cannons were divided into 4 parts. Every time, 500 cannons fired without stopping. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, a truly earth-shattering scene completely unfolded. Under the influence of medicine and evil techniques, the army of demons was like walking corpses, charging towards Cloud Sky City without fear of death. And the 2,000 cannons of Cloud Sky City were divided into 4 parts, firing without stopping. Every time, 500 cannons were like a steel tide crazily smashing over. There was no need to aim at all. When the cannons fell into the dense army of demons, they exploded violently. In an instant, there was a rain of flesh and blood. Countless demons were instantly smashed into pieces. If it were the ancient cannons on Earth, the firing speed would be much slower. Just cleaning the barrel alone would take a long time. Moreover, there was the danger of the barrel exploding at any time. But here, the barrel only needed to be cleaned a little. As for the barrel exploding, there was no need to care at all. In fact, Cloud Sky City had done an experiment. They let a cannon fire continuously for a few hours without exploding. In the end, they really lost patience and gave up on the experiment. After all, the metal here was astonishing. The cannons that were tempered with mystic fire were also astonishing. However, the cooling of the cannons still had to be done. Therefore, the firing process became very simple. Insert the gunpowder cannon, then insert the cannons, and ignite the fuse. Boom! The cannons fired and the cannons were fired. Then, the cannons were quickly cleaned and cooled. Then, the cannons were fired again. Just like that, the 2,000 cannons fired without stopping, crazily throwing countless cannons. It was a crazy massacre. It was even crazier than the previous 2 battles. The dozens of miles in front of Cloud Sky City were instantly engulfed by endless flames, smoke, and blood. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of cannons. They exploded crazily in the demon army. These walking corpses were completely unafraid of death. They kept moving forward, and forward. Then, in the terrifying explosion, they were instantly smashed into pieces and turned into flesh and blood. Just like that, in the crazy massacre. The formation of the Evil Way's army was almost wiped out piece by piece. Just like that, under Chin-Chi-Chi's cold and vicious will, the demon army was crazily massacred. The demon army had to pay an astronomical price for every 10 meters they advanced. If it was a normal army, they would have long collapsed. They would have exploded the camp and fled without a trace. However, these barbarian army that had been controlled had completely turned into walking corpses. They still walked forward numbly. Just like that, section after section of the ground had completely turned into hell on earth. Boom, 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 boom! Later, many of Cloud Sky City's cannons were already bombarding the ground. In this deafening and earth-shattering massacre, time passed minute by minute. 15 minutes. 30 minutes. Half an hour. 2 hours. That's right. The demon army had walked for 2 hours and still couldn't reach this short distance of 3 miles. This was because there was a death zone. Everyone who passed by would basically die. Also, the ruins of the large crystal crossbows and the large trebuchets made it difficult for the army to move forward. However, these walking corpses still walked and crawled numbly. Then, they were even more numb as they were crazily massacred. Tens of thousands were killed. Hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. And there was still an astronomical number of demon army that came a few hundred meters below Cloud Sky City. That's right. Yang Dingtian's cannons were heaven-defying. It was a completely one-sided massacre. However, there were too many Evil Way's army. There were a total of more than 600,000. Although Cloud Sky City's cannons were carpet-bombing, there were still fish that escaped the net. Hundreds of thousands of cannons could only kill 300,000 to 400,000. There were still hundreds of thousands of demon army that came to Cloud Sky City and arrived in front of the moat. Of course, this was also Chin-Chi-Chi's goal. She wanted to use lives and corpses to reach Cloud Sky City. Looking at the hundreds of thousands of demon army that was already very close, Yang Dingtian smiled coldly and said, "What's the use of this?" Then Yang Dingtian ordered loudly, "Change to scatter bullets!" Yes. Then, all the cannons were changed to scatter bullets. The lethality of the scatter bullets was even more astonishing than the blossom bullets. It was a massacre without any blind spots. However, because the firing distance was too close, they had to wait until the enemy was close. Boom! 2,000 cannons instantly fired. Pa! Countless people only felt that their eyes were dazzled. Then, countless sharp scatter bullets, millions of particles, were like a storm. No, they were even denser than a storm. They fiercely smashed into the demon army a few hundred meters away. Whoosh! Countless blood spurted out. The scatter bullets directly pierced through the armor and shot directly into the barbarian army's body. In an instant, a person was completely smashed into pieces. Countless demon army were like wheat being harvested. The entire wheat field fell in an instant. Fire! Boom! Millions of scatter bullets, like a rainstorm, smashed fiercely. Then, like wheat, a piece of it fell. Boom! 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 The rain of scatter bullets only fell less than a dozen times. Then, in front of Cloud Sky City, it was completely empty. Just now, using the blossom bullets to kill the demon army in the distance took a full 2 hours. It consumed 200,000 cannons and only killed 300,000 to 400,000. And after the 100,000 to 200,000 demon army approached the city wall, they used scatter bullets. In just over a dozen waves, in just over a quarter of an hour, these 100 to 200,000 people were all killed without exception. There was one advantage to being killed by the scatter bullets. That was, they would not be blown to pieces and their corpses were relatively intact. Therefore, a few hundred meters in front of Cloud Sky City, countless corpses piled up into a small mountain. Just like that, after less than 4 hours of bombardment, the Evil Dao's 600,000 strong army was completely annihilated, cleanly massacred. Yan Dingtian looked at the ground that stretched for dozens of miles in front of him. It was densely covered in blood and corpses. Of course, he didn't feel guilty. He just felt a sense of absurdity. Of course, he had thought of this result. However, this was too simple. Even on Earth, it was not so easy to use 2,000 cannons to kill 600,000 pigs. At least pigs knew how to run. And these demon army formed by the barbarian mercenaries were injected with drugs and used evil techniques. They would not run. They would only numbly advance, and advance. Of course, there were some that escaped. It could be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. There were also countless beast riders that fled frantically under the massacre of the cannons. But at least on the battlefield, only Qin Chi-Chi's moving palace stood alone in a pool of blood. At this moment, the sky was already dark. However, the moon was very round. Cloud Sky City released tens of thousands of lights in the sky to illuminate the entire battlefield. All of a sudden, the bloody battlefield was filled with an unpleasant smell and a deathly silence. The cavalry of the Eastern Army walked and stopped. They were about 30 miles away from the battlefield of Cloud Sky City. Wu Maji, who was beside Qiu Wanjie, had already disappeared without a trace. "Manor Lord, what should we do?" his confidant whispered. The previous 4 hours were a complete baptism of Qiu Wanjie's soul. The 2,000 cannons slaughtered the 600,000 demon army cleanly. It made his brain explode. The scene in front of him had an unprecedented impact on his thoughts. Then, he floated in the air in shock and watched the unprecedented massacre. Watched the earth-shattering flames. Watched countless corpses and bones fly. Actually, when Yang Dingtian's cannons were firing crazily, the cavalry of the Eastern Army could not possibly charge towards Cloud Sky City. All the war horses had lost control and were trying to escape with all their might. The riders on the horses had to use all their strength to barely control them. They had to stay on the spot and try their best to pacify them so that they could advance. It was impossible for them to die. Just like that, Qiu Wanjie floated in the air and watched in a daze for 4 hours. It was like a young man on Earth watching an American movie for the first time. He was completely shocked. Even after the bombardment ended for a long time, he still could not react. His confidant nudged him gently and said, "Manor Lord, what should we do? Also, Wu Maji has already escaped." Only then did Qiu Wanjie wake up and said to his confidant, "Say, if there are tens of thousands of these metal pipes, how many of them will there be? Will we be able to fight the tens of millions of world extermination army?" "Of course, we will be able to fight them," his confidant said. One must know that he had just been baptized by this huge scene and his blood was boiling. "Since we will be able to fight them, then let's just surrender." "Evil ways!" Qiu Wanjie shouted angrily. Qin Wanzhou was also shocked in the air. After the bombardment ended, the hundreds of thousands demon army was wiped out. Qin Wanzhou scolded, "Yang Dingtian, you son of a bitch! Are you trying to embarrass me?" Just at this moment, his cousin, Qin City's chief steward, stepped forward and said, "Sect Master, there are tens of thousands of soldiers from the Middle Province Expeditionary Army and the barbarian race's beast cavalry that have escaped. They are escaping towards us. What should we do?" Qin Wanzhou immediately wanted to give the order to kill these escaping demons. But after a slight hesitation, he said, "Forget it. Let them pass." "Yes," the chief steward said. Immediately after, he exclaimed, "Sect Master, Yang Dingtian is aiming those metal pipes at us." Qin Wanzhou took a look. Indeed. On Cloud Sky City's city walls, there were at least half of the metal pipes aimed at them. Qin Wanzhou was shocked and said, "I don't believe that son of a bitch can shoot so far." The chief steward said, "Maybe he can. Look at the words metal pipe. The higher it is, the further it can shoot." "But what does he mean by that? What does he mean?" "He is forcing me to choose a side," Qin Wanzhou said. "I don't believe that he really dares to hit me." Just at this moment, Qin Wanzhou saw that the one flying in the air with the command flag was actually Qin Huaiyu. As long as he lowered the flag, the thousands of cannons would shoot towards Qin Wanchou's cavalry. Of course, Cloud Sky City's cannons were much stronger than those of China's ancient times. But at this distance, it was still very difficult to hit them. Even if they could hit them, they wouldn't be very accurate. Therefore, to eliminate the army of evil ways, they would rather wait until they were 3 to 4 miles away. But Qin Wanchou had never heard of such a weapon, nor had he seen it before. Of course, he didn't know that it couldn't shoot that far. Son of a bitch, the son is beating the father, Qin Wanchou said angrily. Order the cavalry to kill the evil ways deserters. Yes, Qin City's chief steward said loudly. Qin City cavalry, listen to my order. Kill the deserters. Yes. Instantly, hundreds of thousands of Western Legion cavalry started to move. They crazily chased after the tens of thousands of evil ways soldiers and ownerless beast cavalry. The same thing happened to Qiu Wanjie's Eastern Legion cavalry. Similarly, the son was beating the father. The 1,000 cannons on the east side also aimed at the Eastern Legion cavalry. In the air, the one waving the command flag was Qiu Wanjie's son, Qiu Yiming. After Qiu Wanjie scolded his son for beating the father, he also started to order his cavalry to kill the tens of thousands of evil ways deserters. Just like that, Qin Wanchou and Qiu Wanjie, who had been watching the battle for half a day, were forced to make a choice by their son. They used a different method to break up with Qin Chichi on the battlefield. Just like that, without any discussion, they directly turned against each other. Anyway, the skin of these big shots was extraordinarily thick. A few hundred miles in front of Cloud Heaven City, there was still a lonely moving palace. Qin Chichi's graceful and alluring body stood outside, looking up at the moon in the sky. She didn't move for a long time. Cold! This is the biggest setback in my life. Perhaps it is also the biggest setback in the evil ways, Qin Chichi said indifferently. Ever since I entered Qin City as a sentinel, I have been able to call the wind and summon the rain. After the yin-yang mirror incident, my power reached its peak. Even Zhu Qinzhu has to lower his head in front of me. Sanction Cloud Heaven City. The Tiando League decided to form an army of 1,000,000 to suppress Cloud Heaven City, forcing all the powers in the world to choose a side. All of this was a strategy that I had devised. Just a day ago, I was still incomparably glorious. I stood at the peak of the world, and the fate of hundreds of millions of people in the western region of the world was in my hands. But now, I have suffered a crushing defeat. I have lost to Yang Dingtian, whom I have never even looked at. Cloud Heaven City should have been unable to withstand a single blow. I only needed to use 1/10 of my strength to easily crush it. But the one who was completely annihilated was me. Aunt Lung, I am finished. I am completely finished, Lin Yemei said fiercely. No, miss, we are not finished yet. We will still win. We still have a real trump card. Cloud Heaven City will still be crushed. No, Aunt Ling, you don't understand, Qin Chichi said. That is not my trump card. That is the Ning clan's trump card. That is Ning Wuming's trump card. My trump card is the 600,000 soldiers, the giant crystal crossbows, the giant trebuchets, and the 25,000 soldiers of the Demon Wolf Legion. These are all finished. Now, even if we win, it has nothing to do with me. This war is not only a war between me and Yang Dingtian. It is also a war between me and Ning Wuming. If I win, the western region of the world will belong to me. Now that I have lost, I have nothing left. Then, my only identity can only be Ning Wuming's wife. Maybe, I can't even be considered a wife. Concubine? In short, I am finished. Now, it is the war between Ning Wuming and Yang Dingtian. Everything has nothing to do with me. At this moment, a strange cry suddenly came from afar. Then, a flying mount that looked like a will-o'-the-wisp appeared from the distant horizon. It covered the bright moon in the sky and approached from afar. It was the spirit ghost bat. The handsome Ning Wuming sat on the spirit ghost bat and descended from the sky. What followed was an extremely cold and gloomy aura. The spirit ghost bat's huge wings covered the bright full moon and left a huge shadow on the ground. It was as if a demon had descended to the world. Ningwuming gently landed on the moving palace. Qin Chichi gently went into his embrace and sobbed softly. "Husband, I have lost," Ningwuming gently said. "Don't worry. Watch me vent your anger for you." Then, Ningwuming lightly said to the air beside him, "Mobilize the blood pupil demonic army and slaughter Cloud Sky City." Suddenly, the dark air around him gradually condensed into a pale spirit ghost bird and flew into the darkness behind him. After a while, the ground dozens of miles behind the moving palace suddenly cracked open. One by one, the black blood pupil demonic army crawled out from the ground. Their bodies were still spotless. They crawled out silently. Of course, they were not ghouls. They had been lying in ambush here during the war. They were waiting for Qin Chichi's complete defeat. Just as Qin Chichi had said, this war was not only a war between the evil ways and Yang Dingtian. It was also a war between Qin Chichi and Ningwuming. Now Ningwuming's wish was fulfilled. Qin Chichi had been defeated. Then, it was time for him to turn the tide. One by one, the blood pupil demonic army crawled out from the ground and gathered on the ground. Each of them was directly floating in the air. Their entire bodies were covered by black cloaks. At a glance, only blood-red pupils could be seen. In the dark night, only pairs of terrifying blood-red pupils could be seen emitting a demonic light. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. A total of 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. In the southwest battlefield, only 3,000 blood pupil demonic army had been deployed and destroyed hundreds of thousands of troops. Moreover, there were no casualties at all. At this time, Ningwuming had deployed 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. Of course, there was only one goal, which was to wipe out Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian had been waiting for the appearance of the blood pupil demonic army. Because he knew that the appearance of the blood pupil demonic army was the real decisive battle. The blood pupil demonic army was the real trump card of the evil demon army. It was more than the demon wolf army, the golden eagle army, and the 600,000 evil demon army combined. However, the blood pupil demonic army did not appear for an entire day of battle. Now they finally appeared. However, the number was much more than Yang Dingtian had imagined. In the distant darkness, tens of thousands of black blood-red pupils floated over like ghost flames. That's right, they floated over directly. Suddenly it was as if tens of thousands of ghosts had surrounded the city. On Cloud Sky City's city walls, everyone's hair stood on end, their entire body ice-cold. Yang Dingtian looked at the people around him and said, "The real decisive battle is here." Qin Huayu's face turned green as he nodded his head. Xu Hongxue sucked in a breath and said, "Are we prepared? This blood pupil demonic army looks very terrifying." Even the arrogant and conceited Xu Hongxue had said such words. Chapter 487. Yang Dingtian knew very little about the blood pupil demonic army. He only knew that this army was the trump card of the South Sea Ning tribe. In other words, it was the army of the evil ways that truly belonged to the evil ways and not the mercenaries. He completely treated this army as his final opponent, his biggest opponent. All the information about the blood pupil demonic army came from the Jiao Liao's report to Yang Dingtian. This army was like an undead army that was fearless. The weapons in their hands were invincible. Every one of them had a cultivation higher than a high-grade martial mystic. Every one of them could release mystic skills. At the southwest battlefield, the 3,000 blood pupil demonic army had wiped out the 100,000 Southwest Alliance army led by Duan Ruyan. Yang Dingtian originally thought that the South Sea Ning tribe would be amazing if they had a few thousand of them. Who knew that there were 30,000 of them in front of him? 3,000 of them could easily wipe out 100,000 soldiers. Then, how many enemies could the 30,000 demonic army eliminate? At this moment, there was a bright moon in the sky and a few thousand lamps. hence, the ground could still be seen. But the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army devoured all the light wherever they went. The surroundings were completely dark. All that could be seen were 30,000 pairs of eyes that were like will-o'-the-wisps. Anyone would shudder at the sight of 30,000 pairs of will-o'-the-wisps floating over. Just like how no one had seen Yang Dingtian's cannon before, no one in the Cloud Heaven City understood the blood-pupil devil army in front of them. It was a complete mystery. The unknown was the scariest thing. The 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army flew towards Cloud Sky City. The countless corpses on the ground didn't obstruct them at all. It was as silent as a ghost. Instantly, the entire battlefield became extremely strange. The army on top of Cloud Sky City almost couldn't breathe. They were getting closer and closer. At this moment, other than the corpses on the battlefield, there were also tens of thousands of cavalrymen from the east and west armies chasing after the demonic army deserters. At this moment, they accidentally blocked in front of the blood-pupil demonic army. Because they didn't receive any orders from Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie, they were at a loss. The remaining demonic army deserters and beast cavalry were running around like headless flies. Suddenly, thousands of blood-eyed demonic army soldiers raised their blood-red scimitars and slashed at the sky. Whoosh! Instantly, thousands of ghostly flames streaked across the sky. The deserters were like headless flies, as well as countless beast riders. In an instant, they were all killed without a sound. Almost at the same time, Yang Dingtian, who was on the Cloud Heaven City's walls, and Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie, who were in the air, all sucked in a cold breath. These deserters and beast riders were scattered all over the place. They weren't gathered together. They were scattered all over the place, fleeing in all directions. However, in the blink of an eye, he was killed by the blood-pupil demonic army. The closest one was a secret, while the furthest one was 100 meters away. They were all killed in an instant. How shocking was this? He could kill without any mistakes from a few hundred meters away? In that case, they didn't even need to reach the city walls. They could just be 100 meters away from the city walls and wipe out the 100,000 soldiers on the city walls. He knew that the blood-pupil demonic army was heaven-defying, but he didn't expect it to be to this extent. It was no wonder that Ning Wuming didn't care about the battle situation at all. He didn't need the million-strong army, the demon wolf demonic army, or the golden eagle army. The 30,000 blood-eyed demonic army could easily wipe out Cloud Sky City. Seeing this scene, the East and West army soldiers were scared out of their wits. They no longer cared about the orders from above and hurriedly tried to escape at full speed. However, as the blood-pupil demonic army got closer, they realized that the surrounding air instantly turned cold. The surrounding space turned completely dark. The blood-pupil demonic army not only devoured life, but they also devoured light. The war horses of the East and West army soldiers were all trembling. No matter how the soldiers whipped them, they only stood on the ground and trembled. They didn't run at all. Instantly, the East and West army soldiers hurriedly dismounted and ran for their lives. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The thousands of blood-pupil demonic army soldiers slashed their scimitars across the sky. Another few thousand ghostly flames streaked across the dark sky. In an instant, all the East and West army soldiers in front of them were wiped out. All the war horses knelt on the ground, bleeding from their 7 orifices as they died. Everyone on the city wall, including Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie from the East and West army, were completely stunned. What was there to fight about? Such a heaven-defying blood-pupil demonic army, what was there to fight about? At this moment, the blood-pupil demonic army was still 30 to 40 miles away from Cloud Heaven City. The cannons were still out of reach. The Demon Dragon Army commander went forward and knelt down. City Lord, let the Demon Dragon Army fight. I don't believe that we can't destroy these things that are either human nor ghosts. Yang Dingtian shook his head and said, No. The Demon Dragon Army wouldn't be a match for this blood-pupil demonic army. Following which, Yang Dingtian said to Kei Ning, Demon Vulture Army, get ready. Put on the bombs and launch an air attack on the blood-pupil demonic army. Yes. Kei Ning said. After a while, 1,000 demon vultures soared into the sky. On each demon vulture there were dozens of bombs. Originally, the air attack was prepared for the demon army. However, when they fought, the cannons were enough and there was no need for air attacks. Therefore, the air attack was left to the heaven-defying blood-pupil demonic army. Whoosh 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 whoosh. 1,000 demon vultures easily flew to a height of 1,000 meters and floated above the blood-pupil demonic army. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Countless bombs fell from the sky. Looking at the sky, Ning Wuming gently hugged Qin Chichi and said, "This Yang Dingtian is indeed a rare genius. He has completely changed the way war is fought. Who would have thought that flying mounts could be used like this? Therefore, even if he didn't have those iron pipes, he could still defeat you with the demon vulture army's air attack." Qin Chichi's gaze was complicated but her expression was gentle. She replied gently, "Unfortunately, he met my husband." Whoosh 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 whoosh. Countless bombs fell on the blood-pupil demonic army's heads. Everyone was excitedly waiting for the countless bombs to explode and blow the blood-pupil demonic army into pieces. However, the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army faced the sky and released their Xian skills. 30,000 rays of light suddenly shot into the sky. Puff 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 puff. In an instant, the cannonballs didn't have time to explode and were instantly cut into pieces by the Xian skills. Countless gunpowder drifted in the air. Kuei Ning was quick-witted. She immediately shot fire arrows at the gunpowder that filled the sky. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion occurred 100 meters in the air. The flames that soared into the sky instantly ignited a few miles of the sky. The explosion that soared into the sky and the flames that soared into the sky seemed to have ignited the sky in an instant. For a moment, the surrounding dozens of miles were as bright as day. However, before the explosion, all the blood-pupil demonic army, like lightning, quickly jumped a few hundred meters forward. This earth-shattering explosion created a huge wave that only slightly messed up their formation. Did the blood-pupil demonic army suffer any casualties in this air attack? Perhaps, but Yang Dingtian didn't see much. Even if there were, it was very sporadic. Mobilizing 1,000 demon vulture army and dropping thousands of bombs only slightly messed up the blood-pupil demonic army's formation. Everyone on the city wall completely sucked in cold air. Even this couldn't destroy the blood-pupil demonic army? Then what should they do? They must not let the blood-pupil demonic army get close. Once they were 100 meters away, then no one could save Cloud Sky City. Even if Yang Dingtian had Grandmaster-level experts, he could at most kill a few hundred or 1,000 of them. However, the opponent had a total of 30,000. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but be shocked. How did the Southern Seas Ning clan, or evil ways, create such an astronomical number of blood-pupil demonic army? These things that were neither human nor ghost, each of them had the cultivation of a high-level martial mystic and above. Each of them could use Xian skills. The most elite part of the demon dragon army also had a few hundred people who had reached the martial mystic realm. Of course, they were middle-level martial mystic. However, this kind of collective military martial mystic was different from martial mystic. At least, they couldn't use Xian skills. And these 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army, each of them was a high-level martial mystic. Perhaps all the martial mystic in the entire Western world added together didn't have 30,000. The Southern Seas Ning clan had mobilized 30,000 and all of them were high-level martial mystic. At this moment, the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army was already 20 miles away from Cloud Sky City. The cannons were barely enough. "Fire!" Yang Dingtian ordered. Boom 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 boom. 2,000 cannons fired in unison. 20 miles away. Because they didn't have very professional cannoneers, their accuracy was very poor. Although the formation of the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army was not small, spanning a few miles. However, less than 20% of the 2,000 cannons hit. In other words, only a few hundred cannons hit the blood-pupil demonic army's formation. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Thousands of blood-pupil demonic army released their Xian skills in unison. In an instant, all the cannons that hit were directly cut through in the air. They were destroyed before they could explode. Only 3 or 4 cannons escaped the net and smashed into the blood-pupil demonic army. Boom, 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 boom. 3 or 4 cannons exploded. Everyone gritted their teeth and waited for the results of the battle. Even if only 3 or 4 cannons exploded, the power was incomparably shocking. Flames burst out, and the surrounding dozens of meters suddenly became empty. At least a few hundred of the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army's formation disappeared in an instant. Yang Dingtian and the others were very excited. This kind of result was also good. They could kill a few hundred people from 20 miles away. The closer they were, the more they could only hit. In this way, the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army would most likely be dead by the time they got close to the city wall. However, the following scene caused Yang Dingtian to feel a chill all over his body. Because the few hundred blood-pupil demonic army that had been blown away or blown down stood up straight and then continued to float in the air. After being hit by the cannons, they were actually safe and sound. 3 or 4 cannons, perhaps only 20 or 30 people were killed, or even less. Most of them were blown away, but they only suffered light injuries and did not even affect the battle. Yang Dingtian and everyone on the city wall were tongue-tied. What kind of army was this? Even cannons could not kill them? Song Chunhua said. City Lord, the greatest lethality of our cannons is the shock wave of the explosion and the shrapnel. However, martial Xian experts can use Xian Qi to protect their bodies, so they tightly lock their muscles. Therefore, unless it explodes directly next to them, after a certain distance, they will not be killed or even seriously injured. Shimen Lai said. That's right, we have done experiments. A martial ancestor realm expert will not be killed even if he is only 2 feet away from the bomb. Next, the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army's heaven-defying performance continued. Yang Dingtian's cannons continued to roar and bombard. The 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army continued to release their Xian skills and shattered most of the cannons from tens of meters away. A small number of cannons smashed into the blood-pupil demonic army's formation. However, most of them still stood up straight, patted the flames on their bodies, and continued to float forward. Furthermore, Yang Dingtian also discovered a heaven-defying aspect of this army. That was, their profound qi seemed to be limitless. A normal martial Xian expert could release Xian skills 4 or 5 times at most before their Xian qi was exhausted. However, this army that was neither human nor ghost continued to release Xian qi. Then, there was only one explanation. This blood-pupil demonic army did not rely on the sea of qi to provide Xian qi. Instead, they relied on other strange things. As expected of the army of evil ways, their entire body was filled with evil. Even the bombardment of 2,000 cannons was completely useless. At this moment, Qin Wanqiu and Xiu Wanjie, who were floating in the east and west, had completely fallen into despair. Xiu Wanjie muttered to himself, "How can this be? Is there really no hope in this world? This is not fair, this is not fair. How can the evil ways possess such power?" The cannons continued to fire. However, the bodies of the cannoneers were getting colder and colder. The bodies of the 100,000 soldiers in Cloud Sky City were also getting colder and colder. As the blood-pupil demonic army rapidly approached, the aura of despair continued to spread. "Sovereign, we have to think of a solution immediately. Once this demonic army gets close, the consequences will be unimaginable," Song Chunhua said. Yang Dingtian slowly closed his eyes and sank into the struggle and torture. To be honest, Yang Dingtian was prepared for the blood-pupil demonic army. Even before the war started, Yang Dingtian had already treated the blood-pupil demonic army as his biggest opponent. However, he thought that the 2,000 cannons and countless cannons would be able to defeat them. Who knew that it would not be possible? Of course, he was still prepared. It could be said that this was Yang Dingtian's final trump card. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he was not willing to use this trump card at all. Because once this trump card was used, the consequences would be unimaginable. It could be said that the land in front of Cloud Sky City was basically completely destroyed and turned into a land of death. As for whether it would affect the ordinary citizens of Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian did not know. He did not dare to guarantee it. If it would affect them, the consequences for the citizens of Cloud Sky City would be devastating. At this moment, the blood pupil demonic army was constantly approaching. The countless cannons had caused the blood pupil demonic army to lose less than 1,000 men. Once they got close to the city walls, the 30,000 blood pupil demonic army would only need 2 minutes to kill the hundreds of thousands of soldiers above. It could be said that once the blood pupil demonic army got close to the city walls, Cloud Sky City would be completely finished. Yang Dingtian would be completely defeated. Of course, he, Qin Huaiyu, and Zhu Hongxue could still survive. However, if they could not protect the millions of soldiers and civilians of Cloud Sky City, then what was the point of their existence? Ning Wuming squinted his eyes and looked at Yang Dingtian, who was on the city walls. He could clearly see Yang Dingtian's painful expression. Yang Dingtian is finished. Cloud Sky City is finished, Ning Wuming said calmly. Ning Wuming said indifferently. History will remember today. Tonight is the beginning of the evil Dao's world domination. After saying that, Ning Wuming waved his hand. In an instant, more than 10 black figures flew over from the sky. They did not ride on flying mounts and relied on their own cultivation to fly. 15 purple-robed men silently floated behind Ning Wuming. Grandmaster, 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 15 Grandmasters. 15 purple-robed Grandmasters from the Ning tribe of the South Sea. Ning Wuming said gently to Qin Chichi. Baby, it's your turn. Qin Chichi smiled gently and clapped her hands. Grandpa, come out. Bang! One person stood up in the moving palace. A huge boom rang out as the enormous moving palace, as well as all the gold and metal in it, was instantly blasted into smithereens. A giant covered in black armor slowly walked over step by step and stood behind Qin Chichi. Suddenly, a surge of murderous aura that shook heaven and earth shot into the sky. Wherever his feet passed, the ground cracked inch by inch. Even Cloud Sky City, which was dozens of miles away, could feel this aura clearly. Grandmaster, Grandmaster. Only a Grandmaster could have such a powerful aura. Behind the giant, 2 black-robed men floated in the air. These 2 men were Qin Chichi's personal bodyguards and were Grandmaster-level powerhouses. And this giant? His eyes were bloodthirsty and lifeless, like a walking corpse. This person was Qin City's Grandmaster-level puppet. And Qin Chichi actually called him Grandpa. Then who was he? Because even Qin Huaiyu did not know about this Grandmaster-level puppet. Who was he? He was Qin Wanchou's father. Qin Wanchou killed his own father, and then refined him into a war demon puppet. Under the protection of 18 Grandmaster-level powerhouses, Ning Wuming pulled out his sword and stabbed it into the air. Blood Pupil Demonic Army, full speed ahead! Slaughter millions of Cloud Sky City! Suddenly, close to 30,000 Blood Pupil Demonic Army sped up and flew towards Cloud Sky City like lightning. Like 30,000 will-o'-the-wisps, they flew ferociously. At the same time, under the leadership of the Grandmaster-level War Demon Puppet, 15 purple-robed Grandmasters, 2 black-robed Grandmasters, and the cold-looking Grandmaster rushed towards Cloud Sky City like a black shadow with a destructive aura. Ning Wuming said indifferently, The final battle, the final massacre, has begun. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, The final battle, the final massacre, has begun. Yang Dingtian came to a door behind the city wall and pulled it open. Suddenly, a coffin was revealed. He pulled open the coffin lid. Instantly, an incomparably powerful energy pierced through the sky. Inside, an old man was lying quietly. He suddenly opened his eyes. A Grandmaster-level powerhouse was also a Grandmaster who could destroy heaven and earth. 100,000 troops, change into biochemical arrows. Suddenly, the 100,000 troops took out a box from their backs and carefully took out special sharp swords from it. All cannons, and also biochemical shells. In an instant, all the cannoneers stuffed the strange green shells into the barrels of the cannons. Demon Eagle Army, bring the biochemical shells and air raid the blood pupil demonic army. Yes. 1,000 Demon Eagle Army soldiers held huge green jade balls and flew into the sky. Yang Dingtian suddenly raised his sword and roared. The final battle has begun. The final massacre has begun. Evil ways, exterminate all. Chapter 488. What was a biochemical weapon? This was probably the only thing Yang Dingtian had done that made his conscience uneasy after coming to the chaotic world. It was also something that went against the nature of justice. In fact, it was completely unintentional for Yang Dingtian to create such a terrifying thing. Yang Dingtian was a good student and a good science student, so he got into the best university in China. However, his university major had nothing to do with biology or chemistry. Therefore, there was not much knowledge left in high school chemistry. With his knowledge, it was impossible for him to create any biochemical weapon. When he was sure that Qin Chichi's army would attack Cloud Sky City, he had been thinking about using Earth's civilization to create all kinds of weapons. First, of course, were cannons and gunpowder. Secondly, there were many, many ideas. For example, when he was faced with sulfur, he naturally thought of sulfuric acid. The warriors in this world might be able to withstand the impact of gunpowder explosion, but highly concentrated sulfuric acid should not be able to withstand it. Later, Yang Dingtian used the pitiful remaining knowledge of chemistry in his brain and failed countless times before he finally created sulfuric acid. And it was sulfuric acid that was full of impurities. After distillation and extraction, it was indeed powerful. Of course, he knew that there were stronger acids, but he really could not think of how to make them. This sulfuric acid was made after many failures. Later, when he took the sulfuric acid to an alchemist and prepared to make a large number of copies, the alchemist did not say anything. The alchemist didn't say anything. He directly took out a bottle. Inside it was a transparent, slightly blue liquid. He poured a drop on a thick steel plate. Then, a huge hole was burned through the 2-inch steel plate. Its power was much stronger than the sulfuric acid that Yang Dingtian had made. Therefore, Yang Dingtian's knowledge of chemistry was mocked in the chaotic world. Yang Dingtian asked, "What is this? Can it be made in large quantities?" The alchemist said that this was the gastric juice of the gold-corroding demonic dragon. In fact, most gold-eating beasts had terrifying gastric acid that could quickly melt metals. It could be said that even low-level gold-eating beasts' gastric acid was stronger than the sulfuric acid that Yang Dingtian had made. The only drawback was that these beasts' acid could not be made in large quantities, so there was only a small amount. It was absolutely impossible for them to be used in a large-scale war. Thus, Yang Dingtian's biochemical path failed for the first time. However, he still gave the order to hunt the gold-eating beasts in the eastern training ground. There were countless gold-eating beasts there. After killing the gold-eating beast, he took out all of its gastric juices. After this order was given, Yang Dingtian left Cloud Sky City to handle some matters. By the time he returned, it had already been nearly a month. In Cloud Heaven City, they had hunted and killed tens of thousands of gold-eating beasts. In the end, the stomach acid he obtained only added up to about 500 kilograms. Of course, an average gold-eating beast's stomach acid wasn't that much, but it wasn't concentrated enough and needed to be purified. Therefore, from 10,000 caddies of gastric acid, he could only extract 1,000 caddies. As one of Cloud Sky City's secret substances, Yang Dingtian was the first to receive a report on the 500 kilograms of strong acid. At that time, Yang Dingtian's focus was on the cannons and explosives, so he did not pay much attention to it. Furthermore, he was facing the yin-yang mirror incident at that time, and his mind was in a complete mess. After that, he brought Qin Huayu to the Sky Demon City to prepare for the marriage with the World Society. Then, he went to the Demon Territory. The changes in the situation were made known when he returned from the Demon Territory. From Jiao Liao, he received information about the blood pupil demonic army. Every one of them was a high-level profound martial artist. 3,000 blood pupil demonic army slaughtered 100,000 soldiers of the Southwest Alliance army led by Duan Ruian without suffering any losses. At that time, Qin Chichi's crusade had already risen to a strategic level, to the level of a million-strong army. Therefore, Yang Dingtian paid unprecedented attention to the blood pupil demonic army. He also firmly believed that the blood pupil demonic army of the South Sea Ning clan was the trump card of this crusade against evil ways. They were the most deadly opponent to Cloud Sky City. Perhaps, the cannons were not enough to kill this crazy army. Therefore, the biological weapon from before once again entered Yang Dingtian's mind and plan. However, the sulfuric acid he made was too weak. The amount of strong acid extracted from the gold-eating beasts was too little. 500 kilograms might not be enough. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had an idea. What would the result be if he combined the strong acid of the gold-eating beasts with sulfuric acid? Therefore, the alchemist began the experiment. The result was not bad. The combination of 500 kilograms of gold-eating beast acid and 500 kilograms of sulfuric acid could reach 70% of the gold-eating beast acid, which was several times stronger than concentrated sulfuric acid. Therefore, Yang Dingtian ordered a large-scale production of concentrated sulfuric acid. Then, he mixed 500 kilograms of gold-eating beast acid with 10,000 kilograms of sulfuric acid. The result was that the new product had 85% of the gold-eating beast's acid's power. This made Yang Dingtian very surprised and puzzled. A ratio of 1 only had 70% of the gold-eating beast's acid's power. A ratio of 110 meant that the gold-eating beast acid was diluted greatly, but it became 85% of its power. This made the alchemist exclaim in disbelief. Moreover, he named this new product Demon Water. Later, Yang Dingtian and the alchemist discussed the effect of using the demon water on martial mystic realm warriors. The result was that it was ineffective. This was because martial mystic realm warriors already had Xianqi shield all over their bodies, which could prevent any liquid from splashing onto their bodies. Yang Dingtian even used the enemy's martial mystic realm spies as an experiment. He directly smeared the demon water, which was many times more corrosive than sulfuric acid, on the martial mystic realm captives. The result was also disappointing. At first, there was a corrosive effect. But very quickly, the warriors' Xianqi directly forced the demon water out of their bodies. The higher the cultivation, the faster it was forced out. Therefore, even if the demon water splashed onto a high-level martial mystic, it could only cause superficial damage. The warrior would use Xianqi to quickly force it out. Therefore, the alchemist suggested that they must add an ingredient that could corrode Xianqi. This way, not only could the demon water easily splash onto a martial mystic realm warrior's body, but it could also directly corrode Xianqi, allowing the demon water to use the fastest speed to instantly burn through the martial mystic realm warrior's body, which was fatal in a short time. However, dozens of alchemists experimented for several days and nights, adding countless poisons, but all failed. Later, Yang Dingtian thought of something. The world's #1 poison, deep-sea Xian poison. This poison was irresistible and could even corrode Xianqi. However, Yang Dingtian no longer had any deep-sea Xian poison at this time, not even a little bit. But he knew of a place that had it. It was the place where Poison Hand's devil was buried. It was the swamp where he was buried. At that time, Yang Dingtian had a request for Poison Hand's devil, so he gave him 2 types of poisons. One was the blood of the deep-sea Xian poison that he obtained from Shimin Ningning. The other was the blood of Shimin Wuya that was contaminated by soul-devouring Xianqi. Not long after Poison Hand's devil obtained these 2 types of strange poisons, he was indiscriminately killed by Dugu Fingwu. However, the deep-sea Xian poison should still be in that swamp of his. Therefore, Yang Dingtian made the best use of his time and flew to the center of the swamp where Poison Hand's devil died. In that incomparably disgusting, hell-like place, Yang Dingtian found countless things, including a tube of deep-sea Xian poison and a tube of soul-devouring blood. Then, he used his fastest speed to return to Cloud Heaven City and handed the deep-sea Xian poison to the alchemists. At that time, all the alchemists were completely shocked. They held their breaths as if they were on a pilgrimage, looking at the number one poison in the world, the deep-sea Xian poison obtained from the Naga race. As long as the deep-sea Xian poison was placed in demonic water, it could corrode mystic qi. Martial mystic experts would not be able to resist it. The only problem was that the amount of deep-sea Xian poison was too little, not even half a tael. There were more than 5,000 kilograms of demonic water, so half a tael was useless. Later on, an alchemist suggested a hair-raising method, which was to cultivate the deep-sea Xian poison. This was because the deep-sea Xian poison was actually a living life force that could be cultivated. How was it cultivated? Using living people to cultivate. If the deep-sea Xian poison was injected into a person's bloodline, the deep-sea Xian poison would crazily devour and spread. Finally, it would turn all the blood in the person's body into the deep-sea Xian poison. This was something that had happened before. At that time, Shima Ningning had only injected her mental energy and mystic qi into the deep-sea Xian poison. As a result, her body was contaminated with a little bit of the deep-sea Xian poison. Not long after, the deep-sea Xian poison spread throughout her body and her entire body turned green. Later on, when Yang Dingtian was seriously injured by Shimin Ju, she suddenly erupted and released the deep-sea Xian poison, instantly killing thousands of people. Then, she disappeared without a trace. From this, it could be seen that the deep-sea Xian poison had indeed grown in his body. The deep-sea Xian poison that was originally less than 1/10,000th of its original size grew incomparably strong and instantly killed thousands of people. However, using living people to cultivate the deep-sea Xian poison was undoubtedly extremely cruel and extremely evil. It could be said that it was no different from evil ways. Yang Dingtian hesitated for a very long time. But in the end, he made up his mind to use living people to cultivate the deep-sea Xian poison. As a result, dozens of evil ways spies became the cultivation base of the deep-sea Xian poison. This deep-sea Xian poison was incomparably tyrannical. After less than half a tael of deep-sea Xian poison was injected into the blood vessels of dozens of people. In just a few days, these dozens of people had all turned into poison people. They had become neither human nor ghost. They could not die at all, nor could they live. Moreover, even the air they breathed was filled with poison. In the end, Yang Dingtian personally drained their blood to extract the poison. 35 people took a total of 50 kilograms of mutated deep-sea Xian poison. In the end, Yang Dingtian injected the 50 kilograms of deep-sea Xian poison into more than 10,000 kilograms of demonic water. In an instant, the transparent demonic water turned into a terrifying green color. In this way, Yang Dingtian's biochemical weapon was born. Using 10,000 kilograms of high-concentration sulfuric acid, 1,000 kilograms of metal-eating beast acid, and 50 kilograms of mutated deep-sea Xian poison cultivated from living people. It was mixed into an extremely terrifying and evil biochemical weapon. Yang Dingtian named it Evil Demon's Blood. Then, Yang Dingtian did an experiment. He dipped an arrow in the evil demon's blood and had 10 ordinary warriors shoot it at the martial mystic level captive. As a result, the martial mystic level warrior used his weapon to cut down 5 poison arrows and used his mystic skill to blast away 3. He tried to use mystic chi to attack the remaining 2 arrows. As a result, the poison arrow directly corroded the mystic chi and shot into the flesh without any hindrance. Then, a hellish scene happened. Yang Dingtian still felt his hair stand on end when he recalled the scene. The martial mystic level warrior's body turned green in an instant. Then, at a speed visible to the naked eye, his entire body melted and was instantly corroded. In just a few seconds, his entire body turned into a pile of disgusting meat paste. The might of this evil devil's blood was much greater than what Yang Dingtian had imagined, and it was also much more evil. Therefore, this biochemical weapon, although it had nothing to do with biology or chemistry, most of it came from this world's deep-sea Xian poison and metal-eating beast acid. However, under Yang Dingtian's lead and conception, it appeared. Although Yang Dingtian had created countless evil demons' blood weapons, he had ordered them to be sealed up immediately. Once this thing spread, the consequences would be fatal. Even Yang Dingtian wasn't sure if using this weapon to kill enemies on a large scale would have fatal consequences for Cloud Sky City. Unless it was a last resort, Yang Dingtian definitely did not want to use this thing. This thing was 10 times, 100 times more terrifying than cannons and gunpowder. However, Yang Dingtian had no other choice now. Without using the evil demon's blood, Cloud Sky City would face destruction. There was no way, and no one, that could resist the 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. As long as they were within 100 meters of Cloud Sky City, the 100,000 people on the city wall would be killed instantly. Yang Dingtian had no other choice. 100,000 archers, get ready! Yang Dingtian roared crazily. Immediately, all the troops on the city wall changed to the terrifying evil demon's blood arrows. They drew their bows and aimed at the blood pupil demonic army that was flying over quickly. Demon Eagle Army, get ready! Immediately, 1,000 Demon Eagle Army soldiers flew above the blood pupil demonic army with evil demons' blood bombs. All cannons, get ready! Immediately, all the cannons were changed to evil demons' blood bombs. The final battle has begun. Evil ways are exterminated. Fire! 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 Yang Dingtian roared as if he had fallen into hell. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 100,000 evil demon blood arrows shot out like raindrops. They were like a black cloud as they smashed towards the 35,000 blood pupil devil army. 2,000 cannons roared and 2,000 evil demons' blood bombs flew towards the blood pupil demonic army. The Demon Eagle Army threw down the huge evil demons' blood bombs. Immediately, in the dark night, under the moonlight, countless green bombs rained down like a rainstorm. 2,000 bombs flew past the green bombs and flew towards the blood pupil demonic army. 1,000 huge green cannonballs suddenly fell from the sky. Immediately, Ningwuming, who was far away, sneered. The 30,000 blood pupil demonic army's blood-red eyes were filled with disdain and sarcasm. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 30,000 Xian skill flames suddenly shot out. Some went to destroy the bombs from the cannons. Some went to destroy the huge bombs that fell from the sky. As for the 100,000 arrows? Are you kidding? They were not even crystal arrows. There was no need to defend at all. They could just let them shoot at them. The clothes of the blood-eyed demonic army were all made of heavenly silkworm demonic silk and other dark materials. Mere arrows could not damage them at all. They still succeeded. 2,000 bombs were shattered by the Xian skill when they were still tens of meters away. The bombs that fell from the sky were also shattered. But the strange thing was that these bombs did not explode into flames. Instead, they exploded into countless green liquids. Then, something even stranger happened. 100,000 arrows, because they did not care, did not stop them. It shot straight into their formation. 100,000 arrows rained down like a torrential downpour, hitting almost everyone. They did not care at all and let the arrows hit their bodies. Because these arrows could not penetrate their cloaks, not even a strand of hair. But these arrows easily tore open the indestructible Xian demon cloaks and pierced into their flesh. The blood pupil demonic army paused for a moment, and then released their Xian qi to force the arrows out. But a terrifying power, a demonic power, instantly tore their Xian meridians and corroded their Xian qi. Then, a terrifying cloud of smoke suddenly emitted from their bodies. Their bodies, their Xian qi, their souls. In an instant, they melted and disappeared. Then, they did not know anything. Even if they were not hit by the poisonous arrows, they quickly melted and disappeared after being splashed by the terrifying green liquid. Everyone on the city wall, as well as the dozen or so Grand Masters behind them, also saw this horrifying and hair-raising scene. 100,000 arrows smashed into the 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. The 30,000 blood pupil demonic army suddenly stopped advancing. 5 martial grandmasters, close to martial grandmasters, against more than 10 martial grandmasters. The final battle, the final massacre. Chapter 489. Yang Dingtian's side had 6 people. Ning Wuming's side had 20 people. In terms of strength, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. The two sides flew 1,000 meters in the air, getting closer, closer, and closer. Finally, when they were 100 meters apart, they stopped. Ning Wuming said indifferently, "Yang Dingtian, you have really made me feel a piercing pain. The 30,000 blood pupil demonic army has really made me give it my all. You have already made history. Even if you fail completely in the future, you have already shocked the world. Because, with your own strength, you have destroyed nearly 1,000,000 of our army." "Well said," Yang Dingtian said. "However, your fate of failure and destruction is still unavoidable," Ning Wuming said indifferently. "You are too noble. You should have used the 2,000 demon dragon army and 1,000 demon vulture army, as well as all the experts of martial ancestor realm and above to exhaust us. This way, you would still have the strength to fight." "That's right." As mentioned before, every master's xianqi was limited, and so was their cultivation. As long as they continued to exhaust them, even if there were more than 10 masters, they would be completely exhausted. If Yang Dingtian had hardened his heart and sent out all the martial ancestor realm experts of the demon dragon army, demon vulture army, and cloud sky city, there would be a few thousand of them. It would be enough to exhaust all the masters in front of him, or even kill half of them. Of course, in that case, Cloud Sky City would also suffer heavy casualties. However, Yang Dingtian had decisively brought only a few masters and close to masters to participate in the battle. Even the martial ancestor realm experts were not allowed to participate. Therefore, they were facing a one-sided disadvantage. Yang Dingtian's side had 1 martial ancestor against another martial ancestor. 5 masters and close to martial ancestor realm, yes, 19 masters. Therefore, Yang Dingtian, your destruction is still unavoidable," Ning Wuming said. "Here, I want to make it clear to you. After you are destroyed, you will definitely not die. He should be crippled of his cultivation and imprisoned for the rest of his life. As for Qin Huayu, because Qin Huaqiu didn't perform well today, he will have the same ending as you. Shu Hongxue was captured and imprisoned in the Black Heaven sect because of his ignorance. As for Song Chunhua, she would directly become Master's lover. Of course, because you've angered my wife, one of your wives must be executed by 1,000 cuts. Qin Jiaojiao is probably the least loved by you, so I'll choose her. The rest of your women were all taken as concubines or concubines. You don't have any objections to this, do you?" The idea is not bad," Yang Dingtian said. "Why don't you listen to my opinion on how to deal with you? It's much simpler. You will be executed by 1,000 cuts. Qin Chichi, execute her with 1,000 cuts." Ning Wuming glanced at Yang Dingtian and said, "Yes, I really can't understand your naivety." He really couldn't understand Yang Dingtian. After eliminating the Evil Ways army and the Blood Pupil demonic army, Yang Dingtian could create one trump card after another. However, these trump cards were useless against a master stage expert. 5 masters, close to master rank, against 19 masters, and Yang Dingtian actually wanted to win. There was nothing more ridiculous than this in the world. Yang Dingtian turned and looked in Qin Huaqiu's direction and shouted, "Sect Master Qin, are you coming over? Come over!" Qin Huayu also couldn't help but look at Qin Huaqiu. Qin Huaqiu was a true great grandmaster. Once he joined, it could be said that Yang Dingtian's side immediately gained an overwhelming advantage. Ning Wuming also looked at Qin Huaqiu and smiled. "Sect Master Qin, you should continue to sit on the fence. Since you've already been observing for a day, why don't you just watch until the end?" Ning Wuming's ridicule undoubtedly made Qin Huaqiu furious. However, Ning Wuming's next sentence made him feel cold all over. "That's right, Sect Master Qin, around this time, the lives of your remaining children will be in danger. If you're hot-blooded and make an impulsive decision, you'll probably see their corpses neatly placed in front of your door when you return, Ning Wuming said indifferently. Qin Wancho's heart was filled with boundless anger and a trace of suspicion. This time, he had already hidden his remaining children in a place that even Qiu Ruhan didn't know about. He didn't believe that Ning Wuming would know. They were hidden 200 feet below the brothel. They were indeed hidden deep enough, Ning Wuming said indifferently. Instantly, Qin Wancho felt a chill run down his spine. Only he knew about this place. How did Ning Wuming know about it? Then, Qin Wancho laughed loudly. All right, then I'll watch the battle from here. Come and tell me when the winner has been decided. Ning Wuming spread his hands towards Yang Dingtian and said, There, your hopes are dashed. Then, Ning Wuming seemed to have remembered someone and said to Qiu Wenjie, All right, Manor Lord Qiu, you can do whatever you want. If you want to come, then come. At that moment, Qiu Wenjie only felt endless humiliation. Ning Wuming's meaning was very clear. Qin Wancho couldn't join Yang Dingtian's side. However, Qiu Wenjie, you're only a grandmaster. You can do whatever you want. This was blatant disdain, looking down on Qiu Wenjie from the back, looking down on him. However, since Qin Wancho didn't make a move, Qiu Wenjie naturally didn't dare to make a move. He only laughed loudly. You guys fight, you guys fight! Ning Wuming said to Yang Dingtian. Look, you guys don't even have your last hope. Yang Dingtian said. Then, let's start. Ning Wuming smiled and said, Aren't you going to be emotional? This is probably the first time in 200 years that so many grandmasters and great-grandmasters are fighting. Yang Dingtian waved at Song Chunhua and said, Chunhua, come behind me. We'll form a team of 2. Yes. Song Chunhua came behind Yang Dingtian and leaned her back against Yang Dingtian as they floated in the air. In this battle, almost everyone had the undying gold medallion. Qin Huayu wouldn't die because he was Qin Wancho's son. Zhu Hongxue wouldn't die because he was Zhu Qingzhu's son. As for Yao Rao, no one would want to kill her because she would transform right before she died. Yang Dingtian wouldn't die either. The other party wouldn't kill him. At most, they would cripple his martial arts, imprison him for life, and humiliate him for life. Of course, once they lost, Cloud Heaven City would be destroyed. Yang Dingtian's wife and relatives would become slaves. This was definitely much more painful than death. However, the only one who would die right now was Song Chunhua. Ning Wuming had also said that he would capture Song Chunhua and use her as a slave. However, when the battle reached a certain point, things wouldn't be clear anymore. Yang Dingtian, I know that you used Ling Qingchen's corpse and the demon's spirit heart to make a battle puppet demon. A great grandmaster battle puppet demon. Coincidentally, I also have a battle puppet demon in my hands. It's Qin Chichi's grandfather. If I remember correctly, Ling Qingchen had just broken through to the great grandmaster realm not long ago. When Qin Wancho killed Qin Chichi's grandfather, he was already a 2-star great grandmaster. Therefore, he was still slightly stronger. Ning Wuming said. Moreover, we also did some things to him. That's why he's become like this, either human nor ghost. He's also much stronger when fighting. He should be stronger than an intermediate great grandmaster. Wow, then he's indeed much stronger. Yang Dingtian said. When great grandmasters fight, it's too scary. Why don't we let these 2 great grandmaster puppets fight further away? They fight theirs, and we fight ours. We don't want to be accidentally scratched by them and lose our lives. That would be too much of a loss. You have to know that battle puppet demons don't have brains. When they fight, they don't care so much. Ning Wuming said with a smile. All right, let's fight 1 li to the east. Yang Dingtian said. All right. Ning Wuming said. Then, Qin Chichi gave the order from afar. The great grandmaster battle puppet demon, Qin Zhong, walked 1 li to the east. Its incomparably huge body was covered in armor. Every step it took was a full 2 meters. With every step he took, a deep crack would appear on the ground, and the ground beneath his feet would be completely burned red. After the great Grandmaster battle puppet demon Qin Zhong was in position, Dong Fang Minmi, who was covered in a black robe, flew over lightly. Wow, your battle puppet demon is quite unique, Ning Wuming said with a smile. This person seemed to always be smiling. Even if he wanted to kill your entire family, he would still be smiling. It was as if there was no hostility at all. Shall we begin? Yang Dingtian said. All right, let's begin. Ning Wuming said to Ling Yanmei. Pavilion Master Ling, I won't participate in this boring battle. I'll leave it to you. Remember, you can trample on them, but don't kill them, Yang Dingtian said to the people behind him. Follow the original plan. The original plan? What was the original plan? Before Dong Fang Minmi won, they couldn't be killed, destroyed, or captured. They would risk everything and wait for Dong Fang Minmi to defeat the battle puppet demon Qin Zhong. The dozen or so grandmasters in front of them would all be left to Dong Fang Minmi. In short, as long as they could hold on until Dong Fang Minmi won, it would be a victory. Otherwise, it would be a failure. Of course, this was also very difficult. Yang Dingtian's side only had 5 grandmasters, while the other side had a total of 18. Although Dong Fang Minmi had been resurrected, it was his soul and consciousness that had been resurrected. His body was still Ling Qingqian's. Only his sea of qi and xian qi cultivation were still Ling Qingqian's. Ling Qingqian had just broken through to the great Grandmaster realm. As for the battle puppet demon Qin Zhong, after the evil transformation, its combat power had surpassed that of an intermediate great Grandmaster. Therefore, this battle wouldn't be easy. Lin Yanmei looked at Yang Dingtian, her eyes filled with hatred. She said coldly, Yang Dingtian, I'm not as gentle as young Lord Ning. I'll let you have a taste of hell. Of course, she hated Yang Dingtian to the core. It was because of Yang Dingtian that her little master, Qin Chichi, lost everything in an instant. From then on, she could only become Ning Wuming's vassal. It was because of him that Sky Phoenix Pavilion's army was wiped out in a short time. Of course, Yang Dingtian really didn't notice when Sky Phoenix Pavilion's army of 20,000 was wiped out. When the cannons were wildly firing, Sky Phoenix Pavilion's army and Ning Clan's army, who were supervising the battle, were completely overwhelmed by the barbarian army. Fight! Ning Wuming floated in the air and waved his hand fiercely. Boom! The 2 great grandmasters were the first to fight. Dong Fang Minmi and the battle puppet demon Qin Zhong instantly collided with each other. They didn't use any xian skills, but the most direct collision. An earth-shattering sound was heard, as if it was going to tear apart the eardrums. The swords of the 2 great grandmasters instantly slashed together. When the 2 swords collided, a bright brilliance shot up to the sky. Boom! The ground under their feet instantly collapsed and burned fiercely. Dong Fang Minmi's body suddenly flew hundreds of meters away like a cannonball. Sure enough, the battle puppet demon Qin Zhong's xianqi cultivation was superior. At the same time, the 15 great grandmasters led by Ling Yanmei launched a fierce attack on Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian and Song Chunhua had a total of 5 great grandmasters. Boom! 5 flaming sword rays instantly blasted out. Qin Huayu and Zhu Hongxue formed a pair. Similarly, 5 great grandmasters surrounded them. As a high-level great grandmaster, Yao Rao was surrounded by 8 great grandmasters. The enemy's 18 great grandmasters attacked in unison. They didn't use any fancy moves or xian skills, but the most direct xianqi attack. In an instant, 3 flaming rays shot up to the sky and engulfed Yang Dingtian and the others. With Yang Dingtian's cultivation, he couldn't even hold on for 3 seconds, even with Song Chunhua's help. However, when the terrifying xianqi sword flames rushed toward Yang Dingtian, they didn't instantly tear apart his xian meridians and sea of qi. Instead, they were blocked by him. All of the flames were fiercely resisted by him. The reason was because Yang Dingtian wore the interspatial ring, which could withstand 3 great grandmasters' attacks. He couldn't resist for long, at most 3 or 4 seconds. However, it was enough. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yang Dingtian used the Xian fire to burn the devil's blood that contained the mutated deep-sea Xian poison and blasted the 5 opponents. The 5 great grandmasters were shocked. They didn't expect that Yang Dingtian's Xian meridians couldn't be instantly destroyed by their Xianqi flames, but he could still fight back. However, they immediately thought of Yang Dingtian's interspatial ring, which was no big deal. As for Yang Dingtian's Xian fire, they didn't care about it at all. They didn't even place Yang Dingtian in their eyes. Yang Dingtian's combat cultivation had yet to surpass the master realm. Suddenly, the 5 of them quickly set up their Xianqi energy shields to resist the Xian fire. Boom! Yang Dingtian's Xian fire blasted the 5 great grandmasters' Xianqi shields. Suddenly, something that made their hair stand on end happened. An absolutely dark, absolutely evil energy instantly tore apart their energy shields. Then, it crazily drilled into their bodies. Immediately after, they felt that their profound energy and their bodies were rapidly corroding and disappearing. How could this be? How could this be? The 5 great grandmasters were extremely shocked. They immediately thought of the devil's blood that Yang Dingtian used to destroy the blood pupil demonic army. However, whoever touched that thing would be done for. Yang Dingtian couldn't possibly use it as an energy attack because he would be poisoned first. Deep-sea Xian poison, even Xianqi would be poisoned. Why wasn't Yang Dingtian afraid? Because he had the dark Xian fire. Even if he was poisoned instantly, the dark Xian fire could instantly devour the deep-sea Xian poison's energy. Suddenly, the 5 great grandmasters used their fastest speed. Swoosh! Sharp blades slashed across their chests and cut off all the parts that were corroded by the devil's blood. Immediately, blood dripped. Yang Dingtian was also stunned. As expected of great grandmasters, they were ruthless enough. Ning Wuming looked at everything in the air and was also extremely shocked. Then, he coldly shouted, "Idiot, don't defend, attack with all your strength. If you use Xianqi outside your body to attack, you won't be poisoned." Xianqi outside the body attack. That was, directly let the Xianqi energy burst out in an instant. After the attack, immediately cut off the connection with one's body. This way, one wouldn't be infected by the deep-sea Xian poison. Boom 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 boom! Yang Dingtian's Xian fire that contained the deep-sea Xian poison crazily blasted out. On the other side, because the 5 great grandmasters didn't dare to kill Xu Hongxue. Zhu Hongxue used the great thunderous fire shield to protect himself, and Qin Huayu. Qin Huayu used the earth-level Xian fire to desperately add energy to the great thunderous shield. The 5 purple-robed great grandmasters were afraid of hurting Zhu Hongxue, so they only dared to increase their attacks bit by bit, trying to tear the great thunderous shield in the most gentle way. Therefore, Xu Hongxue and Qin Huayu's great thunderous shield was on the verge of collapse and hadn't been completely destroyed. Once it was destroyed, the 2 of them would basically be captured without putting up a fight. At this moment, Yang Dingtian took this opportunity to crazily bombard the 5 great grandmasters with his poisonous Xian fire. Immediately, the 5 great grandmasters hurriedly released their Xianqi flames to disperse Yang Dingtian's poisonous Xian fire. Zhu Hongxue and Qin Huayu immediately took the opportunity to strengthen the great thunderous shield. Originally, the most dangerous Yao Rao had to face the 8 great grandmasters. Although she was currently at a disadvantage, her speed was too shocking. She escaped like lightning, causing the 8 great grandmasters to chase her all over the place. Change direction. 3 against Yang Dingtian, 2 against Song Chunhua. Ning Wuming ordered. Immediately, the 5 purple-robed great grandmasters scattered. Boom boom! The 3 Xian fire swords slashed ferociously. For the second time, Yang Dingtian blocked them with his interspatial ring. As for Song Chunhua, she released the heavenly phoenix fire and fiercely clashed with the swords of the 2 great grandmasters. Boom! There was a loud sound. Song Chunhua's delicate body shook, and she violently vomited blood. Boom boom boom! The 3 great grandmasters released the 3rd wave of attacks on Yang Dingtian. The interspatial ring could withstand the last attack. Immediately after, Song Chunhua faced the second wave of attacks from the two great grandmasters. Puff! Her body flew out dozens of meters away and fell to the ground. The two great grandmasters' faces were pale, and the corners of their mouths were bleeding. Song Chunhua was a 3-star great grandmaster, and she had the heavenly phoenix fire, but she was still not a match for the two 3-star great grandmasters. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, Shu Hongshua's great thunderous shield was easily torn apart. The 5 great grandmasters suddenly flew into the air, and the huge palms in their hands suddenly pressed down. Boom! There was a loud sound. The ground where Qin Huayu and Zhu Hongxue were standing collapsed in an instant. The two people were pressed to the ground by the 5 huge palm imprints, and they could not move at all. Yao Rao, on the other hand, was still running around like lightning. The 8 great grandmasters who were chasing her looked cold. Radiance sword array. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In an instant 8 sharp swords flew into the sky like meteors. Then, they turned into countless rays of light and crazily fell. Instantly, they were inserted in every place around Yao Rao, blocking every path of her. Then, the 8 great grandmasters stopped in an instant, completely trapping Yao Rao in the middle. The 8 sharp swords formed a sharp blade prison, making her unable to move at all. More than a dozen great grandmasters, after all, had an overwhelming advantage. The battle between the two great grandmasters was still the most direct and the most explicit. It was completely a collision of strength and energy. Dongfang Minmi had been hit and sent flying thousands of meters away. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound. The puppet war demon Qin Zhong's last fatal trick had sent Dongfang Minmi hundreds of meters into the ground. The ground that the two occupied for more than 10 miles was fiercely torn apart, and countless areas of the ground were burned red. At this time, the only one standing on the entire battlefield was Yang Dingtian. I said that you are destined to be destroyed. Now you are the only one standing, and this is with the help of the so-called interspatial ring. Ning Wuming said indifferently. Now, the 3 energy defenses of the interspatial ring have been used up, and it will take a long time to recover. The 4th wave of attack is about to come. What are you going to do? Yang Dingtian gently wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, Do what you have to do. Ning Wuming said to the 3 purple-robed great grandmasters, Don't show any mercy, completely destroy his Xian veins. Yes. The 3 great grandmasters gathered and released the 4th wave of Xian Qi flame attack, which was also the last wave. Yang Dingtian no longer had the interspatial ring. Yang Dingtian suddenly activated the dark mystic flame and muttered to himself. Now is the time to counterattack. Dark mystic flame, this is the first time you have seen the light of day. Looking at the Xianqi flame that was shooting towards him, Yang Dingtian opened his palm abruptly, and the black raging flames instantly engulfed the enemy's raging flames. At the same time, Dongfang Minmi, who had been sent into the ground, suddenly flew up into the sky. It's about time. I have finally completely suppressed this body and this damned heart. Qin Zhong, thank you so much for this violent beating. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. However, it's time to end this battle. Then, he suddenly pulled out his sword. Roar! A ray of light that was hundreds of meters tall lit up the entire dark sky, piercing through the heavens, and then suddenly slashed towards the puppet war demon Qin Zhong. Sword soul? It was actually a sword soul. Chapter 490. Dongfang Minmi's suppression of the brutal power of the demon's spirit heart was smoother than expected, but it also took longer than expected. About the first 10 hours, he successfully suppressed 95% of it. But for the next 10 days, he was unable to suppress the last 5%. What were the consequences of not completely suppressing the demon's spirit heart? There would be 2 forces fighting for control of this body. This way, Dongfang Minmi would not be able to completely control this body. Of course, there was another way that went very smoothly. That was to cleanse the extremely weak and fragmented remnant consciousness left behind by Ling Qinchin in his mind. First of all, Ling Qingqian was already dead, and his soul had already been extracted by Yang Dingtian. Only a very small amount of fragmented data was left in the depths of his brain. Because of the soul aggregation, Dongfang Minmi did not take too long to completely occupy Ling Qingqian's brain. However, it was a very, very long process to completely suppress the brutal power of the demon spirit heart. Of course, without completely suppressing the demon spirit heart, it basically did not have much effect on the battle. The only thing that had a fatal effect was the sword soul. After Dongfang Minmi occupied Ling Qingqian's body, he also completely inherited his Xian meridians and Qi Si. Ling Qingqian's talent was not as good as Dongfang Minmi's, so he had just broken through to the Great Grandmaster realm. This also meant that Dongfang Minmi's current cultivation had only broken through to the Great Grandmaster realm. Of course, there was also a very fortunate point that Ling Qingqian and Dongfang Minmi were from the same sect, and the cultivation techniques they learned were almost the same. Therefore, when he inherited Ling Qingqian's body, he also inherited almost 100% of his cultivation. However, this cultivation was still not enough. Therefore, Dongfang Minmi thought of the sword soul. More than 10 years ago, the reason why Dongfang Minmi was recognized as the world's #1 expert was because he cultivated the sword soul. He cultivated the sword soul 10 years earlier than Shimen Wuya, although the sword soul he cultivated was not as powerful as Shimen Wuya's sect origin sword. However, Dongfang Minmi's cultivation at his peak was close to that of an 8-star martial grandmaster. Although his sword soul could not compare to his cultivation, it had also reached the level of a 5-star martial grandmaster. Therefore, as long as Dongfang Minmi successfully summoned his sword soul, this battle would be a piece of cake. Therefore, 5 days ago, Dongfang Minmi stopped suppressing the remnants of the devil spirit heart, stopped completely controlling Ling Qingqian's body and profound veins, and traveled thousands of miles to retrieve his soul's sword. Then, he rushed back to Cloud Sky City one day before the great battle. That night, he and Yang Dingtian went to a secluded place deep in the mountains to see if they could summon the sword soul. The two of them were incomparably confused. This was because Dongfang Minmi had already changed his body. Even his energy sea and profound veins had changed. And the sword soul's choice of master was very, very strict. Therefore, after Shimen Wuya was destroyed, no one could use his soul's sword, and no one dared to use it. This was because once one used Shimen Wuya's soul sword, the only outcome was to be devoured by the incomparably powerful sword soul inside and be instantly annihilated. Shimen Wuya was a 6-star martial grandmaster. His sword soul was also at the level of a 4-star martial grandmaster. The sword soul was different from ordinary martial souls. Ordinary martial souls resided in the human body and were not independent energy bodies. Therefore, during a battle, although it could increase the combat power of a martial artist, it would also consume the martial artist's profound chi cultivation. Therefore, in a battle between experts, even if they had a martial soul, they would not necessarily use it. Unless absolutely necessary, they would basically not use their martial souls. However, the sword soul was completely different. It was completely a heaven-defying independent life form. In other words, it was an independent life form. It had a complete energy sea and profound veins. The soul sword was its body. The profound veins essence was its profound veins, and the sea spirit crystal was its energy sea. When its master was cultivating, it was also cultivating. And it was more powerful than its master in one aspect. That was the energy sea formed by the sea spirit crystal. The profound veins formed by the profound veins essence had much greater endurance than a human's profound veins and energy sea. Therefore, once the sword soul was alive, once it started cultivating, its cultivation progress would be very, very fast. Therefore, after obtaining Ling Qingqian's body, Dongfang Minmi was only a beginner martial grandmaster. However, his sword soul was also a true 5-star martial grandmaster. Therefore, after taking back this soul sword, the only suspense was: would Dongfang Minmi still be able to summon his sword spirit, or would he suffer a backlash? Once there was a backlash, even Ling Qingqian's body would not be able to bear it. That night, Dongfang Minmi made up his mind. He gritted his teeth and poured in his spirit and energy to summon the sword's soul and the soul's sword. However, the result was not good, but also not bad. The good news was that the sword's soul did not suffer a backlash. Instead, it was slightly touched. The bad news was that the sword's soul could not be summoned. It could not successfully establish a connection with its master's soul. In other words, its master could not control it to fight. After Yang Dingtian and Dongfang Minmi's analysis, they came to a conclusion. The only connection between the sword's soul and its master was the spirit and soul. It had little to do with profound qi. Then, what blocked Dongfang Minmi from connecting with the sword's soul was the remnant energy of the demon's spirit heart. As long as the brutal spiritual energy of the demon's spirit heart was completely destroyed, Dongfang Minmi might be able to get his sword's soul again. Therefore, Dongfang Minmi hid in the coffin again and tried his best to chase after the brutal spiritual energy of the demon's spirit heart. However, this was a very, very long process. The brutal spiritual energy of the demon's spirit heart was very fragmented and hid in every corner of the body. It was a very long process to completely disintegrate it. However, just one day later, the army of evil ways arrived as scheduled and the war began. Therefore, even during the war, Dongfang Minmi was still in the coffin. It was just that the coffin was placed on top of the city wall. At night, the enemy's final attack came and the final battle began. The martial Grandmaster Puppet War Demon and more than a dozen Grandmaster powerhouses attacked Cloud Sky City. Dongfang Minmi had to stop the final strangulation of the demon's spirit heart's spiritual energy, and come out of the coffin to fight. After fighting with Qin Zhong's martial Grandmaster Puppet, the result was one sad and one happy. The sad thing was that Qin Zhong's body had been greatly modified, so his cultivation was close to that of a 5-star martial Grandmaster. Ling Qingchen's body had just broken through to the martial Grandmaster realm not long ago. Therefore, even if the opponent was a puppet, it was not a match for Qin Zhong's puppet. The happy thing was that it was a huge surprise. Dongfang Minmi and Qin Zhong were directly sent flying a few hundred meters after crazily slashing at each other. Suddenly, the brutal spiritual energy of the demon's spirit heart that had long escaped and hibernated in his body was instantly enraged. It was actually restless, and wanted to condense again. It was as if Zhang San and Li Si were fighting. Li Si was defeated and was about to be beaten to death. In the end, he ran for his life and hid in the grass. Zhang San couldn't find him. Therefore, Zhang San had no choice but to curse at the edge of the grass and humiliate him. Therefore, Li Si couldn't take it and directly rushed out. Then, he was beaten to death by Zhang San. Just like that, Dongfang Minmi deliberately risked his life to take the beating and couldn't fight back. He was violently beaten until he was sent flying more than 10 miles. There wasn't a single inch of the ground that was intact. It was all smashed and ruined by the violent puppet Qin Zhong. In the end, Dongfang Minmi was beaten a few hundred meters into the ground. How could the brutal spiritual energy of the demon's spirit heart take such a beating? It couldn't take it anymore. It went berserk and crazily fought for control of the body. It wanted to counterattack and beat the opponent to death. Therefore, this spiritual energy recklessly rushed into the brain and fought for the highest control. Then, he was instantly killed by Dongfang Minmi's incomparably powerful spiritual energy. Not a single trace of him was left. It was a pity that the spiritual energy of the demon's spirit heart couldn't speak. If it could, it would definitely complain that humans were too cunning. They were originally living in the same body, so why were they so anxious to kill each other? You actually seduced the enemy, lured me out, and then beat me to death. Your trick of injuring yourself to gain the enemy's confidence is very strong. This was exactly like Balbi Jiangwei's saying that to resist foreign aggression, one must first settle the internal affairs. Although he was violently beaten, after completely strangling the remnant spiritual energy of the demon's spirit heart, Dongfang Minmi instantly felt refreshed. Then, he immediately felt an incomparably powerful force. Of course, this was his sword's spirit. After the spiritual energy of the demon's spirit heart was destroyed, his soul and sword spirit instantly established a complete connection. Looking at the puppet Qin Zhong that was like a ferocious giant beast, Dong Fang Minmi sneered. "It's time to end this battle!" Then, he grabbed the treasure sword and slashed down. Suddenly, the snow-white sword light skyrocketed, reaching hundreds of feet, piercing the sky. Then, it fiercely slashed at the puppet Qin Zhong. The puppet war demon was indeed a puppet war demon. After seeing this incomparably powerful sword spirit, it was only slightly stunned and then continued to rush over. Boom! There was a loud noise. The huge sword shadow slashed down fiercely. Suddenly, the entire ground instantly cracked for hundreds of feet. Although the puppet Qin Zhong blocked with the treasure sword, it was directly slashed to within hundreds of meters of the ground. Dirty blood spurted wildly, and the armor all over its body burst open. Then, Qin Zhong's body was exposed. It was really a disgusting body. It was no longer a human, but a monster. The skin all over its body was as rough as a rock, suffused with a terrible fiery red and dead blue color. There were disgusting knots all over its body, as if it was injected with magma and venom. His entire face was completely devoid of facial features, completely twisted together. His entire body was full of cracks, and there were undulating knots everywhere. It was really unknown what evil ways had done to this body, making it completely lose its human appearance. Dong Fang Minmi did not say anything and continued to release the sword spirit to kill. But at this moment, the puppet war demon's eyes suddenly changed. Its originally incomparably bloodthirsty eyes suddenly became cold and dangerous. It, who was originally a walking corpse, suddenly seemed to have recovered its life and consciousness. Then, it dodged at lightning speed. The puppet war demon, Qin Zhong, seemed to have recovered its consciousness in an instant, and became extremely cunning. Of course, it was not because it had recovered its consciousness, but because Qin Chichi's consciousness directly controlled this body. After Qin Chichi controlled Qin Zhong, she immediately fought with Dong Fang Minmi cunningly instead of fighting head-on. On Yang Dingtian's side, the three great grandmasters launched the final attack on Yang Dingtian. Three incomparably powerful balls of mystic flames crazily devoured Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian's left hand rotated, and suddenly, a ball of complete darkness emerged from his hand. Whoosh! In an instant, this complete darkness energy crazily devoured the enemy's mystic flames. Boom! Yang Dingtian's body shook violently, and blood spurted out wildly. He was violently sent flying dozens of meters away. Because of his cultivation, the darkness mystic flame could only devour a limited amount of energy per unit of time. At this moment, the darkness mystic flame had devoured nearly half of the three great grandmasters' fatal attacks. And half of it crazily hit Yang Dingtian. Although it was an all-out attack from 1.5 great grandmasters. But to Yang Dingtian, it wasn't enough to cause any fatal damage. Because he had the 9 young mystic meridians, and the mystic chi from the Naga royalty had been transformed by the Naga mystic meridians. Flying in the air, Yang Dingtian sneered and said, "Now it's my turn." The darkness mystic flame burned fiercely in his left hand. Of course, even if the darkness mystic flame bloomed, there was no flame, only complete darkness. The million spirit demonic flame burned fiercely in his right hand. Then, the two hands suddenly crossed. In an instant, the two heaven-defying mystic flames merged fiercely. They became extremely strange and dazzling mystic flames. Kill! In the air, Yang Dingtian roared fiercely and smashed the two mystic flames toward the three great grandmasters. The three purple-robed great grandmasters were disdainful. They released mystic chi flames from their bodies and blasted toward Yang Dingtian's mystic flame. The combined cultivation of the three great grandmasters was much higher than Yang Dingtian's. Therefore, they could easily disperse Yang Dingtian's mystic flame attack. In an instant, the two flames crossed fiercely in the air. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion suddenly burst forth with dazzling light. But the scene that everyone expected did not happen. Originally, everyone thought that Yang Dingtian's mystic flame would be dispersed in an instant. But it did not. Not only did Yang Dingtian's mystic flame not disperse, it exploded fiercely and became extremely huge. Its energy doubled in an instant. Why did this happen? Because the darkness mystic flame had devoured half of the great Grandmaster's mystic chi flames. Then, the incomparably huge fireball blasted toward the three great Grandmasters fiercely. Resist! The three great Grandmasters released their mystic chi to block the attack. Boom! There was another loud bang and another explosion. However, Yang Dingtian's mystic flame's energy doubled again and became extremely huge. This time, the three great Grandmasters could not dodge and were hit. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound. The three great Grandmasters flew out like straws and vomited blood in the air. Then, Yang Dingtian suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight. In the next second, swoosh, 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 Yang Dingtian moved up and down and quickly appeared behind the three great Grandmasters who were blasted away. 3 fierce slashes. In an instant, 3 huge heads flew into the air. The 3 great Grandmasters all died without a complete corpse. There was a dead silence in the field. Yang Dingtian fought 3 great Grandmasters alone. He actually killed all 3 of them? What kind of sensational news was this? How shocking was this? Whether it was Ning Wuming who was floating in the air or Qin Chichi who was far away, they were all stunned. What was Yang Dingtian's cultivation level? He did not seem to have broken through to the great Grandmaster level? He had not broken through to the great Grandmaster level, and he had already killed 3 great Grandmasters. How shocking was this? Even Qin Wancho, who was far away, felt his blood boil and was ready to fight. After killing the 3 great Grandmasters, Yang Dingtian used all the shock and used his invisibility mystic skill to completely disappear from everyone's sight again. At this time, Ning Wuming was even more shocked. Of course, he knew some invisibility skills and even had some invisibility clothes. However, that was not true invisibility. Using mystic chi and mental strength to search, one could easily find the person who was invisible by listening to their breathing, pulse, and energy. However, Yang Dingtian's invisibility was actually complete invisibility. More than 10 great Grandmasters used all their methods, but they could not find him at all. In an instant, Ning Wuming changed his mind and flew towards Qin Chichi at his fastest speed. Qin Chichi did not know any martial arts. If Yang Dingtian went to kill Qin Chichi, no one would be able to stop him. Or if he used Qin Chichi as a hostage, the situation would be even worse. However, he was worrying too much. Qin Chichi was dozens of miles away, and there was an old great Grandmaster protecting her. Yang Dingtian's invisibility mystic skill could be used to stand still. Once he moved, it would consume a lot of mystic chi. That day, Yang Dingtian tried his best in the secret realm of Despair City, but he could only move about 100 meters. At this time, Yang Dingtian's cultivation level had increased greatly, but the distance he could move only increased by 7 to 8 times. Just as all the great Grandmasters were desperately searching for Yang Dingtian. Suddenly, swoosh, 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 Yang Dingtian suddenly appeared at the edge of the enchanting encirclement. The sharp sword in his hand stabbed out 3 times in a row. 2 of the swords directly pierced the hearts of 2 great Grandmasters. As for the third sword, the enemy's reaction was incomparably fast and directly missed. The 2 great Grandmasters violently vomited blood. Filled with unwillingness, they fell to the ground and died. In a short period of time, Yang Dingtian had killed 5 great Grandmasters in a row. Kill him! Ling Yanmei roared. In an instant, the remaining dozen great Grandmasters, led by Ling Yanmei, madly rushed towards Yang Dingtian. A total of 8 great Grandmasters madly surrounded him. Kill with your sword! Suddenly, the 8 great Grandmasters fiercely pulled out their sharp swords and madly slashed at the air. It was as if they wanted to tear apart every inch of the air. The mystic chi of the 8 great Grandmasters crazily crisscrossed, as if strangling every inch of space. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian desperately dodged. That's right. The invisibility mystic skill could isolate oneself in a space and not be discovered. However, his sword could pierce out. Other people's swords could also pierce in. Therefore, this isolated space was completely visual and spiritual isolation. It was not invulnerable. Following Ling Yanmei's order, everything within a few hundred meters of Yang Dingtian had become a complete killing space. Yang Dingtian tried his best to dodge, otherwise he could be ground into minced meat at any time. What was more fatal was that even if he was scratched a little, he would be immediately exposed. Once exposed, there was only one way out. At this time, Song Chunhua was seriously injured and lying on the ground. Xu Hongxue and Qin Huayu were restrained by 3 great grandmasters. Yao was locked in a blade prison formed by 4 great grandmasters. Seeing the 8 great grandmasters madly strangling the space of a few hundred meters, Qin Huayu and Xu Hongxue suddenly burned with anxiety. Suddenly, the 2 of them looked at each other. Ah! The 2 of them suddenly roared and directly rushed towards the sharp swords of the 3 great grandmasters. They were betting that these people would not dare to kill them. Sure enough, seeing the 2 of them rushing over without regard for their lives, the 3 great grandmasters were stunned and instinctively moved their swords away. In an instant, Qin Huayu and Xu Hongxue madly released mystic fire towards the 8 great grandmasters without regard for their lives, interfering with the 8 great grandmasters' strangling of Yang Dingtian. At the same time, Yao Rao, who was trapped in the blade prison. Ah! Suddenly, she cried out in pain and covered her big belly. The 5 grandmasters surrounding her were shocked and turned to look at her. Suddenly, Yao Rao's beautiful eyes lit up, revealing an incomparably charming and enchanting light. Her eyes were as beautiful as the deep sea, like a blurred illusion, instantly attracting their spirit and sinking into it. The fox spirit's enchanting technique. For great grandmasters, it only took a moment. But it was enough. After instantly enchanting the 3 great grandmasters, Yao Rao's sharp sword struck out like lightning and instantly shattered the energy blade prison. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Then, Yao Rao's incomparably vicious sharp sword wildly scattered. Of the 3 great grandmasters who were enchanted, 2 of them. In an instant, they were strangled into minced meat. The 3rd one woke up at the fastest speed. Then, Yao Rao turned into lightning and rushed towards the 8 great grandmasters surrounding Yang Dingtian to save Yang Dingtian. When Ning Wuming saw the changes on this side, his expression changed drastically. He said coldly, "Let Qin Zhong leave the enemy's sword spirit grandmaster and come over to encircle Yao Rao and attack the child in her belly. Then she will go berserk. No one here is a match for her," Qin Chichi said. "Let her go berserk and kill Yang Dingtian's sword spirit grandmaster and Yang Dingtian." Ning Wuming said coldly, "Anyway, as long as Yang Dingtian doesn't die in our hands, Master can't blame us." "Yes," Qin Chichi said. Then, she controlled the great grandmaster puppet, Qin Zhong, to leave Dongfang Minmi and rush towards Yao Rao like lightning. Once a mid-level great grandmaster moved at full speed, its speed was incomparably shocking. Qin Zhong, the puppet war demon, suddenly approached Yao Rao like lightning. It would take less than 2 minutes to cover the distance of dozens of miles. Of course, Dongfang Minmi, who was behind it, couldn't catch up with it with his own cultivation. Running away in front of the sword spirit and leaving your back to the sword spirit is undoubtedly the most stupid thing to do. Then, Dongfang Minmi's Xianqi energy suddenly burst out. The sharp sword in his hand turned into a shooting star and flew out of his hand. In an instant, it turned into a ray of light that was hundreds of feet long. Then, this huge ray of light scattered in the air and turned into tens of thousands of sword rays. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Tens of thousands of swords, like tens of thousands of stars, chased after the puppet war demon. In an instant, they had already caught up. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Then, it was a frenzied killing. The puppet war demon was indeed a puppet war demon. It still ran madly, leaving its back completely open to the sword spirit. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Countless swords madly strangled and pierced through the puppet war demon's body. Disgusting green blood spurted out. In an instant, the puppet war demon, Qin Zhong, was smashed into pieces and turned into countless pieces of flesh and blood splattering everywhere. He, who was already dead, was completely dead once again. Chapter 491. Note, second update, it's already 3 in the morning. Today's update is still at 11,000. Brothers, cheer me on, please. Sword Soul? In an instant, all the enemies present were completely stunned by Dongfang Minmi's Sword Soul. Even though Dongfang Minmi had already used his Sword Soul once and unleashed a sword light that was hundreds of feet long, it still wasn't enough. However, it looked too much like a sword ray made of Xianqi, even though Xianqi sword rays weren't that long. However, the characteristics of the sword ray weren't obvious at that time. Qin Chichi was only surprised that Yang Dingtian, the battle puppet demon, had suddenly become so powerful. Therefore, she had no choice but to use her divine sense to control Qin Zhong to fight. Next, when Qin Zhong turned his back to Dongfang Minmi, it was the best time for him to release his Sword Soul. As a result, Dongfang Minmi finally released the most dazzling and stunning Sword Soul attack. Sect Convergence Swords. This was definitely the most representative trump card of all Sword Souls. Although all Sword Souls weren't exactly the same, there were still some similarities. However, there were still some similarities. For example, the 10,000 swords returned to origin was the most representative move of the Sword Soul. Shimen Wuya had once released the Sect Convergence swords during the battle on the sea and defeated the Grand Master level expert, Grand Elder Ning Busi. Although Shimen Wuya's Sword Soul wasn't as mature as Dongfang Minmi's, the Sect Convergence swords of Shimen Wuya's Sword Soul was already slightly stronger than Dongfang Minmi's. Therefore, Dongfang Minmi asserted that if Shimen Wuya hadn't been framed by Zhu Qinzhu, he would have been invincible within 10 years. Within 10 years, he would even be able to fight with those two over 200 years old monsters. Let's not talk about Shimen Wuya. Almost everyone present had never seen a Sword Soul with their own eyes. Even Qin Wanzhou and Zhu Qinzhu hadn't cultivated a Sword Soul yet. Before their eyes, the Sect Convergence swords had actually appeared and a Sword Soul had actually appeared. Instantly, the battlefield fell into a deathly silence. Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi weren't the only ones who were shocked. Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie, who were far away, were also shocked. They stared at the ground in disbelief at the peerless expert who had unleashed the Sword Soul. In this world, those who could use Sword Soul were all dead. Who exactly was this person who was able to use the Sword Soul? Ning Wuming had been smiling all this time. His gentle and refined face had finally changed. His body finally began to tremble. Qin Zhong, the great Grand Master puppet war devil, was smashed to pieces. Instantly, Ning Wuming's side fell into an absolute disadvantage. If it were the previous 19 Grandmasters, they might have been able to fight against the great Grandmaster. But now, of the 19 master-level masters, 5 were killed by Yang Dingtian's terrifying means, and 2 were killed by Yao Rao. There were only 12 left. Including Qin Chichi's personal guards, there were 13 left. Could 13 masters fight against a great Grand Master? Just barely. But what if it was a great Grand Master who had a Sword Soul? What if there were 4 complete Grand Masters on Yang Dingtian's side, or close to the great Grand Master level? They were destined to lose this battle. After killing Qin Zhong, Dongfang Minmi immediately approached Yang Dingtian at full speed. Ning Wuming bowed slowly and asked gently, "May I know your name, senior?" Dongfang Minmi was still shrouded in the cloak. He said slowly, "Young Master Ning, who am I? Perhaps only another master has the right to know." As he spoke, he quickly approached Yang Dingtian. Actually, Dongfang Minmi wasn't the only one approaching. Qin Wanzhou, the great Grandmaster, was also approaching. Because everyone knew that they had entered the most dangerous situation. Previously, Qin Huayu's life wasn't in danger, but that was because Ning Wuming was confident of victory. Now Ning Wuming, who was facing a trapped beast, couldn't care less. Not only could Qin Huayu die, but Zhu Hongxue could also die. "Senior, please stop. If you walk too fast, I will feel uneasy. Once I feel uneasy, I will counterattack crazily. Ning Wuming smiled and continued. The situation in front of us is already very clear. I think Senior also doesn't want to fight like a trapped beast. In this way, with more than 10 grandmasters, Yang Dingtian, Song Chunhua, Qin Huayu, and Zhu Hongxue could all be killed. Then, let's have a negotiation, how about it? Dongfang Minmi said indifferently. I will completely follow the will of City Lord Yang Dingtian. If you want to negotiate, you can talk to him. Then, Dongfang Minmi continued to approach at full speed. Senior, please stop, Ning Wuming said. This is the last time I am warning you. If you come any closer, I will immediately order more than 10 grandmasters to attack Yang Dingtian and the others. Don't doubt my words and don't provoke me. Immediately, Dongfang Minmi slowed down, but he still approached Yang Dingtian. Ning Wuming suddenly said to the air, Sir Yang Dingtian, how about we talk for a while? Yang Dingtian directly appeared in the air and slowly walked to the side of Yao Rao, Qin Huayu, and Zhu Hongxue. Then, he walked to the heavily injured Song Chunhua, helped her up, and carried her to Yao Rao. How are you? Yang Dingtian asked. Not bad, I won't die, Song Chunhua said. I just didn't live up to your expectations. Then, Song Chunhua weakly closed her eyes. In this battle, Yang Dingtian had the universe ring, the darkness mystic flame, and the mystic skill of invisibility. And Qin Huayu and Zhu Hongxue had their identities to protect them. Therefore, the only one who was heavily injured was Song Chunhua, who was jointly injured by 2 4-star grandmasters. Talk? How? Yang Dingtian was also willing to negotiate. He only had one goal, and that was to stall for time and wait for Dongfang Minmi's arrival. Once his master arrived, this battle would be completely over, and they would win. At this moment, Dongfang Minmi was about 20 miles away from Yang Dingtian. This period of time might be the most dangerous moment, and also the closest moment to victory. Ning Wuming said, Let's pretend that nothing happened. We'll all retreat, how about that? Are you kidding? Yang Dingtian said. Ning Wuming said, Then let's take a step back. I'll completely withdraw from the Western world. The Northwest continent, the Southwest continent, and the North will all belong to you. I'll go and manage the Central continent, how about that? You come and go as you wish. Do you think my Cloud Sky City is your backyard? Yang Dingtian said coldly. Ning Wuming spread out his hands and said, City Lord Yang, you should know. First of all, my infiltration in the Western world is very strong. Even Qin Wancho's children are in my hands. I can make millions or even thousands of people die from the plague. These are all my bargaining chips. And the bargaining chips in your hands are the lives of the remaining 10 grandmasters under me. You should know that you can't kill me, Yang Dingtian said with a smile. Young Master Ning, I'm not as smart as you. But I also know that you've completely lost this battle. In the entire Western world, you have no chance to make a comeback. In order to build up the world to besiege Cloud Sky City, you've already used up everything you have. So, from now on, you can only hide underground and carry out terrorist acts in the Western world. It's absolutely impossible to occupy it head-on. And the so-called terrorist acts are also actions that harm others without benefiting yourself. So, your bargaining chips may not be bargaining chips anymore. Ning Wuming smiled helplessly and said, Okay, then I'll take another step back. You've now become a lurker of evil ways, the public enemy of the world. How about this, you let us withdraw from here calmly, and I'll restore your reputation in the Taekwondo League. How about that? Oh right, Senior who knows Sword Soul, your speed is too fast. I'm a little uneasy. Dongfang Minmi's eyes narrowed, and he slowed down slightly. Then, Ning Wuming shrugged and continued to speak to Yang Dingtian. Look, I'm already very, very generous. I'll give you the entire Western world, and the Taekwondo League will restore your reputation. I'll go to Zhongzhou and fight for power with Zhu Qingzhu. This should be very beneficial to you. No. Yang Dingtian shook his head. Although the two of them were talking, The dozen or so grandmasters in front of them were circulating their celestial qi, ready to attack at any time. On the other side, Dongfang Minmi was still 20 miles away from Yang Dingtian. Because they couldn't provoke Ning Wuming's forces to counterattack before death, they didn't dare to speed up. At this moment, the final moment was getting closer and closer. The destruction of Ning Wuming's forces was also getting closer and closer. As long as Dongfang Minmi arrived, everything would be over. Ning Wuming's expression turned cold, and he said coldly, Yang Dingtian, are you forcing me to turn against you? Don't you know the consequences of me turning against you? Don't tell me you want millions of people to die because of you? Once I turn against you, Cloud Sky City won't be able to escape either. Then, Ning Wuming said coldly, the child in this vixen's stomach is yours, right? You're really something, to be able to get a 1,000-year demon fox pregnant. If I turn against you immediately and let the dozen or so grandmasters attack the child in her stomach, what will happen? You won't be able to stop it, right? What will the result be? Your child will be destroyed before it's even born. That vixen will go berserk in an instant. Then I'll kill all of you here. The grandmaster behind you with the sword soul won't be able to escape either. Then, Ning Wuming said sternly, everyone, get ready to attack that vixen's stomach. Suddenly, a terrifying flame surged in Yao Rao's beautiful eyes. Her entire body began to stir. Not to mention destroying the child in her stomach, just Ning Wuming's threat was enough to make Yao Rao go berserk. If that really happened, Yao Rao would definitely go berserk. Once she went berserk, with the cultivation of a 9-star Grandmaster, everyone present would die without a complete corpse. Yang Dingtian, you don't have a choice, Ning Wuming said lightly. Yang Dingtian walked to Yao Rao's side and gently held her hand. Half of her hand was cold, and the other half was hot. She was trembling, not because of fear, but because of anger. That senior is getting closer and closer. Once he arrives, we'll be dead. Time is of the essence, you have to make a choice, Ning Wuming said. Let's go immediately, or I'll kill your unborn child. I'll count to 3. 1. At this moment, Dongfang Minmi, who was more than 10 miles away, was rushing back as fast as he could. 2. Shu Hongxue and Qin Huayu quickly came to Yao Rao's side, wanting to use their bodies to block the attacks. As for Dongfang Minmi, he suddenly released his sword soul. In an instant, thousands of light swords flew over like meteors. Kill! Ning Wuming said lightly. Boom! 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 More than a dozen grandmasters used all of their chi flames to attack Li Mu. The cunning Ning Wuming didn't even count to 3 before launching his attack. Immediately, Yang Dingtian, Zhu Hongxue, and Qin Huayu used all their strength to block in front of Yao Rao. But more than 10 grandmasters didn't only want to attack Yao Rao, but also Yang Dingtian. The extremely cunning Ning Wuming had once again set up a trap without anyone noticing. He made everyone focus their attention on Yao Rao, and used his mind to order more than 10 grandmasters to attack Yang Dingtian together. More than 10 grandmasters were less than 10 meters away from Yang Dingtian. More than 10 grandmasters' Xian Qi attacks instantly condensed into 2. A small half of them attacked Yao Rao, and the other half attacked Yang Dingtian. The whole process didn't even take 0.1 second. Ning Wuming didn't want to negotiate or compromise. He wanted to use this last chance to completely destroy Yang Dingtian. Attacking the child in Yao Rao's stomach was just a feint. The real move was indeed Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian wanted to stall for time and wait for Dongfang Minmi to arrive. Ning Wuming was lulling Yang Dingtian and creating hope for Yang Dingtian. Once the timing was right, Ning Wuming instantly attacked without hesitation. No! Dongfang Minmi, who was far away, instantly roared and burst into a stream of light, crazily rushing over. The attacks of the 7 grandmasters stopped in an instant. There was no way to dodge. An incomparably bright energy light suddenly shot toward Yang Dingtian's chest. It was enough to destroy all of Yang Dingtian's Xian veins and Qi. At this moment, almost no one could save Yang Dingtian, including Yang Dingtian himself. At this moment, suddenly, a red light flew up from the ground. The seriously injured Song Chunhua suddenly pounced toward Yang Dingtian. Boom! There was an earth-shattering noise. Even though Song Chunhua had already done her best, even though she was less than 2 feet away from Yang Dingtian, the Xianqi flames of the 8 grandmasters arrived at the same time as Song Chunhua. Boom! An incomparably terrifying energy instantly bombarded the bodies of Yang Dingtian and Song Chunhua. The two people's bodies were directly blasted dozens of meters away. Although Yang Dingtian only withstood half of the energy, he still vomited blood wildly. An incomparably powerful energy instantly tore through his entire Xian veins and qi si. His entire body suddenly split open inch by inch. And Song Chunhua, like a broken flower petal, blood spurted out from her nostrils, ears, and mouth. Her entire body directly flew out infinitely far away. At the same time, Zhu Hongxue and Qin Huaiyu were also sent flying. And Yao Rao, who was bombarded by 2 grandmasters, actually withstood it, and stood motionless in the same place. Immediately after, the enemy's more than 10 grandmasters used the last time to launch a second wave of attacks. This time, all of them hit the child in Yao Rao's stomach. However, they had no chance. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Tens of thousands of light swords that were filled with anger flew towards them like countless meteors. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. In an instant, more than 10 grandmasters, before they could launch a second wave of attacks, were instantly smashed into pieces by the sword's spirit. At the same time, Dongfang Mimi, who had almost turned into a stream of light, suddenly arrived and flew into the air. He quickly caught Song Chunhua and Yang Dingtian, one in each hand. Then, he frantically injected Xianqi to suppress the crazy tearing of the two people's bodies by the powerful energy. As for Ning Wuming, after giving the order for the first attack, he immediately grabbed Qin Chichi and fled frantically. He was completely like lightning, fleeing like a stream of light. In almost an instant, he had disappeared without a trace. At this time, he was already nowhere to be seen. The furious Dongfang Minmi, holding Yang Dingtian in one hand and Song Chunhua in the other, frantically chased after him. This was because even at the critical moment, he had firmly locked on to Ning Wuming's energy aura. The enraged Yao Rao also chased after him at full speed. A few minutes later, Dongfang Minmi chased for nearly 100 miles and finally saw Ning Wuming's back again. At this time, Dongfang Minmi finally saw Ning Wuming's true cultivation level. He was an 8-star Grandmaster. He was not even 30 years old yet, but he was already a 7-star Grandmaster. How crazy was he? Only when he was frantically running for his life, this extremely cunning person would use all his energy. He was frantically running, desperately running. His speed was very fast, but he was still not faster than Dongfang Minmi, who was at the Grandmaster level. In an instant, Dongfang Minmi was getting closer and closer. The speed of the two people had reached the extreme. They were like lightning, shuttling back and forth in the air. They were getting closer and closer. After a while, the two people flew for another 100 miles. Dongfang Minmi was only a few hundred meters away from Ning Wuming. Ning Wuming's destruction was already in front of him. At this time, Ning Wuming suddenly said to Qin Chichi, who was in his arms, "Chichi, I'm sorry. Help your husband for the last time." After saying that, Ning Wuming did not turn back. He suddenly threw Qin Chichi towards Dongfang Minmi. Instantly, Qin Chichi, who had no strength to truss a chicken, flew towards Dongfang Minmi like a kite. At this time, Qin Chichi's beautiful eyes were full of sarcasm and sorrow. This person was really ruthless. At the most critical moment, he threw his wife away in exchange for his own escape. Dongfang Minmi hugged Yang Dingtian and Song Chunhua together with one hand. Then, he used his other hand to grab Qin Chichi, who was in the air, in his palm. Although this woman was not as heavy as Ning Wuming, she was still heavy enough. With this slight delay, Ning Wuming flew for another 1,000 meters. The distance between him and Dongfang Minmi was pulled apart again. Dongfang Minmi continued to chase. After a while, the two people flew for another 100 miles. Dongfang Minmi, although there were 3 people on him. He was still getting closer and closer to Ning Wuming. After another 100 miles, the distance between the 2 people was once again reduced to a few hundred meters. It seemed that Ning Wuming had no way to escape. At this time, the 2 people were already 400 to 500 miles away from Cloud Sky City. Although Ning Wuming was escaping crazily, although he was as cunning as a fox, although he counterattacked before his death. He even sacrificed more than 10 master experts and his wife in exchange for his own escape. However, he still could not escape. Dong Feng Minmi, even if he had Yang Dingtian in his arms, chased after him crazily until the end. However, at this time, suddenly, Ning Wuming suddenly stopped and turned around. He faced Dong Feng Minmi with a gentle and elegant smile on his face. It was a calm and gentle smile that was incomparably amiable. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.